Chapter 21 Rumor. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. After the operation, Anko's mother stood outside the operating room and thanked them. Nono-sama, Tsunade-sama, thank you very much. Nono laughs and jokingly said, you seem to forget to thank another one. Hearing this, Anko's mother also reacted quickly. Little Dr. Soseki, and you, thank you very much. Soseki's face was serious, but the corners of his mouth still can't help but rising. This is the first time I've been called a doctor. Seeing this situation, everyone also smiled. They didn't expect such a prudent and reliable little Soseki couldn't help but being happy just by being called a doctor by others. However, this Soseki is more like a child. Anko is looking at Soseki with big, dripping eyes, and her eyes are full of appetite. Big brother, can I still have that kind of dream in the future? Of course you can. As long as you learn genjutsu in the future, you can have any kind of dream you wanted for yourself, Anko. Wow, then I want to eat meaty rice balls, dango, red bean soup. Mother, stop pulling me. Do you want to die? Even if it's a dream, do you want to be so fat that you can't walk after eating so many sweets? I don't care. It's better to be too fat to walk than to be too hungry to walk. The mother and daughter walked away while joking and laughing. Everyone smiled as they watched this warm scene. Suddenly, Soseki raised his head and asked, Tsunade-sama, is our Konoha the victor from the last war? Although she doesn't understand why Soseki suddenly asked this, Tsunade sighed in emotion and said, in war, will there be a victor? Soseki bit his lower lip and said, I'm just thinking, if even the villagers are living in difficulty, how hard will it be for the people in the small countries who were affected by the war? Hearing this, Tsunade was suddenly silent, inexplicably remembered the 3 little kids rescued by Jiraiya in Hidden Rain Village. But, this kind of thinking, looking at Soseki, Tsunade's eyes were dazed. He's really similar to that guy Jiraiya, and by studying in medicine, can I really save this world? Soseki whispered in confusion, and immediately looked towards Tsunade with refreshed look. Tsunade-sama, can you please guide me in training? Tsunade was startled, and said after a moment of silence, why me? Soseki said as if it is a matter of course it's because you are our Konoha's greatest medical nin. The greatest medical nin? Tsunade laughed at herself, and then shook her head while facing Soseki's expectant gaze. I have no intention of accepting disciples. Tsunade-sama, you. Nono looked anxious and wanted to dissuade her. It's okay, no. Soseki was a little frustrated at first, but soon said with full vigor, it must be because I am not good enough, that's why Tsunade-sama didn't want to guide me in training. Quote. After saying that, Soseki shouted loudly as he walked away, Tsunade-sama, I won't give up. Looking at Soseki's retreating back, Tsunade showed sad expression. He really looks like you. Nawaki. As if returning to that nightmarish scene again, the blood could not be stopped, and Tsunade's body trembled in fear. Blood. Muttering, Tsunade suddenly woke up from the nightmare. Then, she finally noticed a fact that she had neglected before. Although I did not perform the operation this time, I didn't deliberately avoid it. Why is there no such feeling of fear and despair? Could it be that I was influenced by his beliefs? On the other side, Soseki, who returned to the lounge, felt a little helpless. As expected, it is hard to get Tsunade's acceptance. It seems that to overcome this difficulty, I have to start from the other side. Having that said, Soseki didn't feel discouraged. The so-called plan was only to push forward the greater of many possibilities. If it's too easy, he might not cherish it. In that case, it's time to those rumors go out. Thinking of this, Soseki's mouth showed a gentle sunny smile. Don't let me down, senpai. A week later, at the academy, in a remote and quiet corner. The originally peaceful atmosphere was broken by a burst of laughter and mockery. Is this your confidence? It doesn't seem that good. Don't think that you have become a shinobi just because you learned clone technique. You are still far behind. That's right, if we want to resist us, you should at least come out with a D-rank ninjutsu. D-rank ninjutsu, are you looking down on Boss Shunen's strength? A group of third-year students dressed as delinquents are frolicking, and the youngsters surrounded by them frowned. Okay, stop wasting time with them. Understood. One of the delinquents walked forward lazily and squatted on the ground. Looking at your appearance, you seem to be very unconvinced. Several students with more youthful faces were knocked to the ground and glared at them. It's useless even if you are unconvinced. Strength is everything in Shinobi's world. The delinquent patted the face of the youngster in the front, and said with a smile, as a reward for teaching you this truth, shouldn't you lend some money for us? Hearing this, the leading youngster shouted angrily, I won't lend my money to you scumbags. The delinquent is not angry when being shouted. He still smiled at the youngster and said, of course, it is your freedom to lend it or not, but, when that time comes, we might talk to you every day. You. Don't be so happy, after all, our third-year students are your best big brothers. Hearing what he said, the other second-year students were a little scared. Shota, let's just give it to them. Yeah, it's not the first time anyway. Seeing that all his companions given up, Shota could only say with humiliated expression, I agreed. Seeing this, the other delinquents released loud mockery and laughter. It's really boring, he admitted defeat just like that. I thought that there would be a good show to watch today. Being provoked by them like this, Shota shouted loudly, you only dare to bully us. If you really have the ability, go find trouble with the first grade. Hearing this, the group of delinquents' expressions became a bit ugly, but Shota continued to shout regardless, what noble Uchiha clan. They didn't even dare to put a fart in front of Hokage-sama. What did you say? Shunin, who had been watching from the sidelines, suddenly said as he looked at the youngster with a cold expression. Did I say something? Shota stubbornly yelled. It has long been spread in the academy that you, an Uchiha clan's member, don't even have the courage to stand in front of the Sarutobi Asuma. Quote. Chapter 22 Academy Systems. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. In a small forest, Uchiha Shunin looked at the people around him with cold expression. Tell me, how many of you know about this? The group of delinquents all looked at each other in dismay. It was the first time they saw their boss Shunin became so angry. What happened to the second-year student who talked nonsense before is still fresh in their memories. Cough cough, boss, they are just a bunch of stupid little brats who can't control their tongues, there is no need. A delinquent stood up to comfort him, but before he could finish speaking, he was so frightened by Shunan's vicious gaze that he swallowed the rest of his words. Those scoundrels can insult me, but the glory of Uchiha clan must not be defiled. Defiled? Isn't it a fact? The delinquents silently cursed in their hearts, however, they righteously said, yeah, Uchiha is the clan that established Konoha. Whether it is history or foundation, it is not something comparable to that trifling Sarutobi clan. Hearing what they said, Shunan felt a little relieved. Okay, you guys should go with me to find trouble with that Sarutobi Asuma now. Wait, boss Shunan, calm down. Boss Shunan, don't go. The group of delinquents tried to stop him hurriedly. They still have the idea of continuing the tradition to the first grade at first. However, after 2 months of observation, they threw away that idea. Not to mention the 2 monster-level new students. The amazing cohesion the new students have alone is enough to make them fearful. The difference between the number of people on both sides is 7 or 8 times, so how can they fight them? Shunan's expression became very ugly. What do you mean? Do you think I can't deal with even a brat who is 2 years younger than me? Of course not. That Sarutobi Asuma is of course nothing. The group of delinquents persuaded bitterly, but there are so many of them. Hearing this, Shunan's face instantly turned red like a pig liver. They have always been the only ones who bullied others by relying on numbers, but now it's the other way around. I don't care. I must let those bastards know that my Uchiha are the strongest clan. Shunan roared loudly. Sure enough, it's here again. The bad people wailed in their hearts, but they also knew that their boss had perfectly inherited Uchiha clan's stupid temperament. Actually, it's not completely helpless. The military advisor of this group said softly. Say it. That Sarutobi Asuma wasn't very popular among the newcomers. It was only because of Shimizu Soseki that the new students were linked together. So, we should deal with that Shimizu Soseki first? Shunan asked, resting his chin on one hand. Don't, that Shimizu Soseki's reputation in the first grade is too high. If we touch him, all of those new students will definitely fight with us. The military advisor almost broke out in a cold sweat. Hearing this, Shunan asked impatiently, then what are you trying to say? The military advisor rubbed his hands and said with a smile, what I wanted to say is, we should separate out those people step by step. Shunan's eyes lit up when he heard this, speak more clearly. Those new students are not completely united. As long as declare that we will only trouble the unpopular among them, other new students must be very happy to say that those unpopular students unlucky. Then, we will divide the group of new students step by step like this. When that time comes, let alone stand up and speak for others, I'm afraid they will fight each other themselves. Wow, it's really despicable, but I like it. In the history class, Yagami explained enthusiastically. The academy system is the pioneering creation of Naidame Hokage-sama. This system not only nurtures a large number of talents for Konoha, but also eases the contradiction between clan shinobi and civilian shinobi to a certain extent. Because of this, the shinobi villages from other countries imitated this system, which has a profound impact on the shinobi world. It is not an exaggeration to say that it changed the overall pattern of shinobi world. Now, do you know what the most important links in the process of creating the academy are? However, most of the students below sleep, talk, or play around, and few of them are listening to his lectures. Faced with this situation, Yagami had no choice but to use his trump card. Soseki, please answer this. Soon, the girls in the class immediately became energetic. Seeing this, Yagami couldn't help but feel somewhat jealous in his heart. If I was 20 years younger, my charm would not necessarily be worse than Soseki's. It's basic education, graduation gift and guidance team. Soseki stood up and analyzed carefully. In the Warring States period, although the major shinobi clan have their own proficient secret ninjutsu, it is difficult to train their clan members in areas that they are not good at, which also makes a lot of many talented shinobi were buried without showing their talents. After entering the shinobi village era, a rich basic education can point the way for a large number of shinobi in training, so that the phenomenon of buried talents will not appear. And for large shinobi clan with a more complete education system, what attracts them to join the school is more because of graduation gifts. Even for large shinobi clan, B rank and above ninjutsu are difficult to obtain. Not to mention the high rank ninjutsu that is suitable with their corresponding attribute. As for the guidance team system, it greatly reduces the risk of sacrifice of rookie shinobi and allows the rookie shinobi to grow as quickly as possible. Not only that, the guidance team also acts as a bridge between the civilian shinobi and clan shinobi to a certain extent, allowing the various people that were originally separated to integrate with each other. Yagami nodded approvingly, and then asked, other great shinobi villages are also following our system, but do you know why their teaching results are far behind our Konoha? This time, without waiting for everyone to answer, and Yagami answered it himself, there are actually many reasons, but in my opinion, the most important thing is the contribution made by Naidame Hokage-sama. Naidame Hokage-sama has created countless forbidden techniques in his lifetime, and even many of these forbidden techniques are still half finished. However, it is these ninjutsu that has greatly enriched our ninjutsu library, so that our students will not lose sight of the way forward when choosing a path. This is what other great shinobi villages will never catch up with. Wow, so Naidame Hokage-sama is so powerful? After class is over, I will become the Naidame Hokage. Seeing this situation, Yagami is very pleased. In Konoha, Naidame Hokage is in a position that is kind of awkward. Shodem, who created Konoha and stopped the Warring States period, is of course much more prestigious than Naidame, and now Konoha is in Sandame's reign, so all kinds of his contribution propaganda will naturally overshadow Naidame, so that many children have not even heard of Naidame. Yagami, who is a Nidaime's fan, naturally won't tolerate such thing. Being pleased by the situation, Yagami continued, although you can also exchange for high-rank ninjutsu by accumulating contributions after graduation, it is not easy. In a sense, high-rank ninjutsu, which is chosen as a graduation gift, is the only high-rank ninjutsu you can have for a long time after graduation. Quote, choosing B-rank ninjutsu as a graduation gift will allow you to pass the genin stage more smoothly, but the price is that it will take more effort to redeem A-rank ninjutsu in the future. And choosing A-rank ninjutsu as a graduation gift will be hard for you to master it soon, and you may not be able to master it before you become a jonin. Although you all are still far away from graduation, you can think about this in advance. Consider this as your homework. Now, you all can get out as the class is over. Quote, Chapter 23 Mooching is all I can do. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. AN1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. AN2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. From Soseki's point of view, this academy system is actually a subtle effort to dilute the clan's brand. However, for children, these are not important. What really attracts them is, wow, I want to choose Shodem-sama's Nativity of a World of Trees. Idiot, wood release is a Kekkei Genkei's ninjutsu. You can't learn it even if you choose it. How dare you call me an idiot? Let me show you my water release. Great waterfall technique. That's just you spitting. Look at my water release. Water colliding wave. In this lively atmosphere, Asuma ran over and sat down on the table in front of Soseki without being polite at all. Have you decided what to choose as a graduation gift? I'll say it first. I plan to choose fire release, hiding in ash and dust technique. Kurenai's fingertips lightly tapped on her delicate chin and then she said, I want to choose Genjutsu, Bringer of Darkness technique. Asuma then asked enthusiastically, Soseki, how about you? Soseki folded his hands around his chest and said with a gentle but lazy smile, I'll take. Spirit transformation technique. At this moment, the girl sitting behind Soseki suddenly said timidly, spirit transformation technique? Soseki turned around, tilted the head, Shizune, is there any problem? Seemingly afraid to look directly into Soseki's eyes, Shizune lowered her head shyly, and asked in a low voice, Soseki-kun, why do you want to learn this ninjutsu? Soseki answered sincerely, if I can learn this jutsu, I will be able to help everyone better in the future. Even if I go to the battlefield, I will be able to grasp everyone's information as soon as possible. Hearing this, Shizune couldn't help but said, but people who learn this technique will be targeted by the hostile shinobi villages, and when using this technique is the most dangerous moment for the main body. Why would you choose such a harmful ninjutsu to learn? At the end, her soft voice became agitated. Soseki smiled gently and said, Shizune, do you think the senior who invented this jutsu hasn't thought about this problem? Listening to Soseki's words, Shizune subconsciously recalled the gentle face of that man. Although she was still very young at the time, the kind of care and gentleness has been engraved in her memory. It was this memory that made her instinctively resist answering, I don't know. Soseki smiled slightly and said with eyes full of longing, isn't the so-called ninjutsu created according to the will of the ancestors? Wouldn't it be a pity if no one inherits the will of such a technique? Shizune was stunned and repeated what Soseki had said, inherit, will. Wait, Asuma waved his arm vigorously, interrupting the conversation between the two, spirit transformation technique is an S-rank secret art ninjutsu. Even if it's Soseki, it's almost impossible to learn such technique. Asuma, this isn't like you. Soseki turned around and smiled gently, even if it's a secret art ninjutsu, wasn't it created by people? People have learned it people, so can't we even repeat the path the ancestors have walked? If we don't even have such courage to do that, how can we create a better future? Hearing this, Asuma's blood is boiling and he shouted enthusiastically, you're right, I want to choose a secret art ninjutsu too. However, Ibiki's voice came from the side. There is no fire attributes secret art ninjutsu in the book of forbidden technique. No tilde. Smiling, Soseki turned his attention to Shizune again. As for the question just now, I already have the answer. Whether it is the hostile shinobi villages or the weakness of the main body, in fact, one answer can be used to answer these two problems, partner. Asuma, Kurenai, if it's you guys, you can definitely protect me, right? Asuma, who is still mourning because there is no fire attributes secret art ninjutsu in the book of forbidden technique, shouted in a passionate tone upon hearing this, of course, if someone wants to deal with Soseki, they have to step over my corpse first. Seeing this, Kurenai gritted her teeth bitterly, bastard, why are you answering so quickly? At this moment, Shizune came back to her sense and looked towards Soseki, as if there were twinkling stars in her eyes. Soseki-kun, in fact, the person who created spirit transformation technique is my uncle, Kato Dan. Quote. Soseki showed a hint of surprise at the right time, and then, suddenly, exclaimed, no wonder you were so surprised when you heard that I planned to choose spirit transformation technique, it turns out. Shizune bit her lower lip and said, although this jutsu is already owned by the village. Soseki is not surprised about this. After all, with Konoha's patent rights, they will own the technique after the inventor died. However, my uncle's experience about training spirit transformation technique still remains. If you need it, Soseki-kun, I can lend it to you. Quote. Soseki was overjoyed and asked, is it really okay? Shizune nodded her head vigorously and answered, well, if it's Soseki-kun. At this moment, Ryosuke rushed in from the door like a wind, ran to Soseki, and said gloatingly, aha, Soseki, guess what I saw when I went to the toilet just now. Quote. Asuma next to him said with a look of disgust, you shouldn't have walked into the girl's toilet, right? Idiot, how could this Ryosuke-sama do such a thing? Ryosuke blushed, I'll just tell you directly, that guy Mizuki was blocked by the third graders. Quote. Ryosuke screamed out, and the whole class watched over. He deserves it, who made not giving respect to class leader last time. Quote. That's right, if it wasn't for Soseki, who would care about him? When you say this, I kind of want to go and see how unlucky that guy is. Ryosuke about to agree a few times when he suddenly saw Soseki's solemn face, and asked with confused expression, Soseki, are you trying to save that bastard? Soseki nodded seriously. Seeing this, Ryosuke couldn't help but said depressedly, is that guy that important? Every one of you is very important to me. Soseki's gentle eyes swept over everyone. His voice was firm and strong. I know that Mizuki is not very sociable, and can even be said to be a little withdrawn, but in any case, he is a member of our class, and as long as he doesn't do anything that endangers our class, he will always be our companion. Our first graders didn't need those third graders to attack one of us. Actually, Soseki's remark this time is not very good, but thanks to his usual perfect image, everyone's enthusiasm has suddenly risen. Our first grade is the best group. Quote. Yeah, let us show those third grader bastards that we are not so easy to bully. Quote. Like a torrent, everyone took the initiative to follow Soseki and rushed out. At this time, the other old students on the academy looked at this scene in a daze and horror. Do these new students want to start a war in the academy? So terrifying. Chapter 24 The Army Arrives. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Meanwhile, in the small forest next to the toilet. Hee tilde. Mizuki, who was forcibly dragged out of the toilet, shouted in horror, what do you want to do? One of the delinquents walked out and said with a strange smile, it's nothing, we will just let you feel the tradition. What tradition? It's just that we seniors will give you some good pointers, and then, if you want, you can just lend us some money. Mizuki could naturally understand their malicious intentions, but he still asked with some hope, can I not be given pointers? The group of delinquents laughed and one of them said, how can we not do it? We third grade senior is your best big brother. When we say we want to give you pointers, you should just accept it. Mizuki's heart gradually sank. While looking for an escape route out of the corner of his eyes, he used words to draw the other party's attention. Why me? There are obviously so many people in the first grade. Of course it's because you're the best to bully. Who told you to have no friends? Mizuki's heart trembled and suddenly remembered Soseki's previous invitations. But soon, he recalled his family members that died in the war. Friends are not reliable at all. Family members will die, friends will die, and the only one who can be trusted is myself. Those who have nothing is not afraid of losing. Seeing that Mizuki turned silent, the delinquents were a little disappointed. What they wanted to watch was not this kind of boring pantomime. You bastard, give us some reaction. That's right, don't try to pretend to be an expert by being silent. Before he finished speaking, Mizuki ran in the direction of the women's toilet with a sprint. He knows that he would definitely not be able to beat this group of third graders with his endurance, so he can only bet that they are not willing to carry the reputation of being perverted. Bastard, how dare you run away? However, Mizuki could run a few steps, he was kicked away. With such strength, you still want to resist? Shunin stood on the edge of the small forest and said coldly. In normal times, he wouldn't work so hard, but this time it was different, because this time, it was for the glory of the Uchiha clan. Seeing this situation, all the delinquents gathered around with grinning smiles. Run, why didn't you run? You don't even listen to us seniors' words, are all new students so arrogant now? It seems that their words have aroused the hidden pain in his heart. As Mizuki's eyes are red, and he rushes forward like a madman, damn it, I will kill you all. A delinquent easily grabs Mizuki's fist and commented with a smile, yeah, very energetic, arg. Mizuki, who has been well versed in fighting since childhood, kicked the opponent directly in the crotch. The delinquent who was kicked, put his legs together, and knelt on the ground crookedly, as bitter tears gushing out of his eyes. The other delinquents first felt cold sweat on their crotches, and then they rushed up furiously. Damn bastard, how dare you do that? Don't hold back. Mizuki is naturally not their opponent, so he can only lie on the ground and curl up into a ball. I want revenge, I will kill them, Mizuki yelled in his heart, and his tenacious will persisted so that he did not faint. But gradually, his consciousness became somewhat numb. Am I going to die? No, I don't want to die yet. Suddenly, the punches and kicks coming at him stopped. Is it finally over? In a daze, Mizuki barely opened his bruised eyes. In his sight, those arrogant third graders all stepped aside and looked behind him, and their faces seemed to be full of horror. What's the matter? This question flashed through Mizuki's thoughts, and then, he heard a familiar voice behind him. Mizuki, can you still hold on? Just bear with it for now, I will treat you. In fact, Soseki himself has some doubts in his heart. In his expectation, Mizuki should not have suffered such a serious injury. Could it be that he did something outrageous to these third graders? However, this situation seems to be more beneficial to me now. Soseki's eyes narrowed slightly, and several plans in his mind are rapidly taking shape, but his movement is not slow at all, and the green chakra sprinkled on Mizuki, making Mizuki almost groaned in comfort. On the other side, seeing Mizuki's tragic state, some students who had no good feelings towards him also felt a little sympathy in their hearts, and then they all glared towards the third graders. Being stared at by so many angry glares, all the third graders had their legs so weak that they couldn't walk. At the same time, they were all complaining about Shunin and their stupid military advisor in their hearts. Didn't you say that they won't care about such character? Shunin calmed down and summoned up the courage to stand up. New students, what do you want to do? Seeing Soseki treating Mizuki, Asuma consciously stood in front. The answer should be obvious, hit someone. Shunin can't help but stun when he heard this. This kind of word should have been said by them in the past. What's more depressing is to say that the person who said this was the Sarutobi Asuma who he hated the most. Shunin took a deep breath and said, there should be many people on your side who hate this Mizuki, right? There is no need to make everyone unhappy because of such a person. Hearing this, Asuma looked unhappy and said, I only know that you attack our first-grade people. Soseki said that those who attacked us will pay the price. Shunin's eyes twitched twice upon hearing this. He originally thought that since the other party was the Hokage's son, he wouldn't care about this, but now, it seems that this is not the case at all. At this time, the previous military advisor stood up and said, well, let's fight one-on-one according to the rules. Asuma stared wide-eyed upon hearing this. The third graders fight one-on-one against his first graders? Did you not feel ashamed to say such thing? The military advisor waved his hand and said without the slightest embarrassment, then 1-on-2. Asuma was a little uncertain, and looked towards Soseki. At this moment, Soseki finally helped Mizuki stabilize his injury and stood up. In an instant, everyone's eyes are focused on Soseki, expectation, jealousy, fear, worship, and so on. He is obviously just a first-year rookie, but this kind of presence that can change the atmosphere is really enviable. Amazing, if only we also have such a strong character in our second grade. The old students from the other grades who followed the large army looked at this scene, and their hearts became excited. Soseki did not answer directly, but looked toward Shizune first. Shizune, you should also be able to use medical ninjutsu, right? Huh? Not expecting Soseki to call out to herself in front of so many people, Shizune lowered her head nervously and said, yeah, I can. That's good. Soseki nodded, and then looked toward Shunin and the other delinquents with sharp gaze. We are all shinobi, and for shinobi, there is no need to talk about fighting alone. Hearing Soseki's words, everyone in the first grade has a kind smile on their faces. Seeing this situation, all delinquents panicked. Wait, don't come over. Ah. Before they can finish speaking, the new students are already rushing towards them. For a while, screams, wailing, and begging for mercy echoed in the mountain and forests with a sense of rhythm. The other grades watched this scene with trepidation and made up their minds that they would never provoke the first graders in the future. It took almost 10 minutes before Soseki stopped the group of unleashed beasts. Shizune, come and help me treat them. Oh okay. Although she is puzzled, Shizune is not someone who would say her opinion. Upon hearing Soseki's request, she followed without questioning anything. Shunin raised his swollen head and said courageously, HMPH. Don't think we will forgive you just because of this. Soseki looked up blankly. What do you mean forgive us? An ominous premonition suddenly rose in Shunin's heart, but she still asked, don't you want to ease the relationship with us? Soseki shook his head and said with a smile, I just thought that we'll beat you up again after you've been healed. The other delinquents are dumbfounded upon hearing this. At this moment, Soseki's image in their eyes is even terrifying than the devil. Chapter 25 The Door to a New World. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. La 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 tilde la 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 tilde I'm back. Hearing the brisk little tune from the entrance, Tsunade, who lay lazily in the sofa, barely raised half of her head. Shizune, when are you going to make dinner? I'll do it right away. Shizune is somewhat helpless. It was obvious that Tsunade has promised her uncle to take care of her. But why does she feel that the roles have been reversed? However, Shizune does not reject this change. For her, this will make her feel more at home. Tsunade slowly slid down the sofa like a slug, and then, the scene she saw out of the corner of her eyes suddenly cheered her up, and she asked excitedly. Shizune, did you fight with others at the academy? From Tsunade's point of view, Shizune is good at everything else, but her personality is too soft, and she will easily suffer in the future. It should be known that when Tsunade was in the academy, she fought all the way. Therefore, as Princess Tsunade's disciple, how can she not fight? Shizune patted her dusty and muddy sleeves, and nodded excitedly, For a good girl like her, today's group fight experience is just like suddenly opening the door to a new world. I told you a long time ago, it's good to beat people, right? Tsunade enthusiastically taught Shizune her previous experience as a bully. Of course, it's not good to beat people casually. The best thing is that you must have 1 or 2 guys in your class who deserves a beating like Jiraiya. Shizune waved her little fist with dissatisfaction. How can it be like that? We are just fighting in a war against the oppression of evil forces. Tsunade was stunned upon hearing this. Where did she learn such novel word? Seeing the confusion on Tsunade's face, Shizune proactively explained, it's the delinquents in the 3rd grade who bullied a student in our class. Then, Soseki took us to find those delinquents to settle the accounts. We dispatched the whole class together, so that the 3rd graders were so frightened they did not even dare to say a word, and also, after we finished beating them, Soseki asked me to treat the delinquents with him, and then we put them into another beating. The more she spoke, the more excited she became, and at the end, her face turned red. That little brat actually has such courage. Tsunade's eyes flashed a little surprise. When she heard that he was treating those people, she thought that Soseki was going to reconcile with them. But she didn't expect that he just wanted to beat them again. However, it's really relieving. Tsunade secretly nodded. If the last time she saw Jiraiya's kind of kinship in the other party, then what she saw in Soseki this time was the same toughness as hers. Thinking of this, Tsunade suddenly realized another question. Wait, you said the whole class. Shizune tilted the head. Is there any problem? Tsunade then asked curiously, don't you have concerns about a group fight? And from what you said before, it seems that you are not dealing with people person this time. Are you not afraid of being retaliated against after this incident? Yes, Shizune nodded stupidly at first, and as if she suddenly realized, she then said, we just listened to Soseki, and followed him up without thinking. But soon, she waved her hand confidently and said, but don't worry, this time we helped that classmate who can be said to be withdrawn to us, therefore, the next time we are bullied, other students will definitely help us. Moreover, those delinquents in the 3rd grade are now afraid of class leader to the death. So with Soseki around, they won't dare to provoke us at all. Just one sentence can make people him with all their hearts. This kind of trust is really enviable. Tsunade sighed softly in her heart, if it weren't for my hemophobia, I would be happy to accept such a disciple. In the Uchiha clan's territory, in a mansion with the characteristics of the Warring States period. A middle-aged shinobi, who was sitting still in the courtyard, suddenly opened his eyes and asked calmly, where are you going? Shunin, who was walking through the courtyard, froze, lowered his head and turned around, father. Are you not going to explain to me about your injuries? Shunin twitched his lips and said, someone has already told you about it. The middle-aged shinobi said bluntly, I want to listen it from you. Shunin knelt down helplessly, and immediately let out a painful cry, ouch. What happened to you? My butt was beaten so I can't sit down. Seeing Shunin twisting his body constantly, and finally change his posture where his front body was leaning down and his back hips were raised high, the middle-aged shinobi almost choked directly. Taking a deep breath, the middle-aged shinobi calmed down and said, you can say it now. Shunin pouted and said, in short, I was beaten for the glory of the Uchiha clan. The middle-aged shinobi said with a sneer, then, should I praise you? Shunin murmured, I think it's okay. Bullhit, the middle-aged shinobi slammed the table and shouted angrily, just after I didn't see you for a while, you already got hung out with those trashes? Do you know that those bastards are just taking advantage of your Uchiha's reputation? As for you, they never regarded you as their own. I know. You know, huh? You said you know? I'm not an idiot. I can still tell whether the others treat me good or bad. The middle-aged shinobi suppressed his anger and asked, then why are you still hanging out with them? Shunin did not answer directly, but talked about something else, from my childhood, except for my friends in the clan, no one of my age would like to play with me. Is there such a thing? Why didn't I know? Of course you don't know, you've been with the clan head all day and never had time to look after me. The middle-aged shinobi frowned and did not speak. I have tried and tried to be friends with the people outside, but I have failed. In fact, none of these matters, but the only thing I can't bear is that they slander the Uchiha clan behind our backs. From then on, I've learned that it's better to make people fierce than to make them like us. The middle-aged shinobi's eyes flashed with a touch of emotion, but he quickly reprimanded Shunin with a cold face, idiot. People can't exist if they didn't have a group. Even our ancestor, Uchiha Madara, couldn't do it, so why would you say such a big talk? That's better than doing nothing like you. Such weakness is not the glory of the Uchiha clan at all. Get out of here. HMPH, I can walk by myself. Shunin stood up, limped out with his hips up. After Shunin left, an inaudible muttering rang in the quiet courtyard. Did we really do something wrong? We have clearly restrained the clansmen, and we also have already shown goodwill to the Hokage and his clan, so why is the situation still not changed at all? Is it our family that bears the curse, or is someone secretly pushing it from behind? Chapter 26 Asuma, It's All My Fault. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. The next day, noon. When the end of school bell rang, everyone in the classroom cheered and rushed to the cafeteria, but there are still a few people around Soseki. Huh? You guys plan to visit Mizuki in the hospital with me? Soseki asked, looking at the people in front of him. I figured it out. That guy seems to have been beaten because of me. Asuma scratched his head in embarrassment. Anyway, I have to visit him. Shizune clenched her hands into small fists and placed them in front of her chest. I am also a little worried about Mizuki's situation. Seeing Soseki, Kurenai's eyes were erratic. You are all gone, so it's boring to be alone at the academy. Well, let's go together. On the way, seeing Soseki a little depressed, Asuma thought he was worried about what happened yesterday, so he patted his shoulder cheerfully and said, don't worry, Soseki, if the Uchiha's people come to trouble you, I'll go back to that old fogey and file a complaint. Soseki smiled happily when he heard this. With Asuma's haughty character, it must have definitely been a great ideological struggle for him to be willing to ask Sandaime for help. That's not what I'm worried about. Soseki shook his head, pursed his lips and said after a moment of silence. When I gave Mizuki the initial treatment yesterday, I found that his injury may be a bit serious. Asuma asked puzzledly, really? I thought he has recovered pretty well yesterday? Soseki just sighed, I hope I was wrong. The road to the hospital is not too long, so it didn't take long for Soseki's group to arrive at the entrance of the hospital. Then, under Soseki's lead, they found Mizuki's ward easily. Mizuki, how are? Asuma yelled familiarly, but before he could finish speaking, he was taken aback by the sight in front of him. He saw Mizuki lying upright on the hospital bed, his eyes were blank, and he did not respond to their arrival at all. Like a salted fish that has lost its dream. Mizuki, what's wrong with you, Mizuki? Asuma shouted in shock, not good, Mizuki is dead. Bang. Ouch, who hit me? Asuma cried, covering her head. Kid, don't talk nonsense. A nurse stood behind Asuma and said with both hands on her hips. Huh, is Mizuki not dead? He was breathing so well, what do you mean he died? Then he. However, the nurse no longer intends to answer his question. Instead, she turned and looked towards Soseki, and said in a structured language, hello Soseki, this classmate you brought. He may not be able to study with you in the future. Asuma was surprised and asked, wait, what do you mean? The nurse sighed, he has lost the qualifications to become a shinobi. However, this may also be a good thing. With an ordinary life, he didn't have to worry about when will he die in the mission. Damn it, how could it be like this? Asuma slammed his fist onto the wall. If it was normal, he wouldn't be so uncomfortable. But he now knows that it was entirely because of him that Mizuki became like this. Although it wasn't his will that caused all this, he still felt that he owed Mizuki. The more perceptive Kurenai and Shizune have already cried quietly. Although they didn't have much interaction with Mizuki, they felt uncomfortable seeing their familiar classmates look like this. Asuma was depressed, and suddenly saw a glimpse of Soseki's solemn expression, and a flash of light flashed in his mind. Soseki, you must have a solution, right? Hearing Asuma's words, Mizuki, who was lying on the hospital bed, also had a glimmer of hope in her eyes. If it was him, maybe it really possible. Perhaps, but, Soseki frowns, somewhat undecided. Yumiko-ne is right, Shinobi's world is inherently dangerous, if... No, please, give me a chance. Hearing this dry and dumb voice, several people were overjoyed. Mizuki, you are finally live. Ba, are you finally awake? Mizuki, are you okay? Mizuki didn't respond, and just stared at Soseki straightly. I have no family, no friends, and I don't want to lose my last self. You are wrong, we are all your friends. Soseki shook his head and looked at Mizuki a sincere gaze. However, if you insist, I can give it a try. Asuma on the side asked, what are you going to do, Soseki? With Mizuki's current physical condition, if he wants to become a shinobi, he must undergo an operation, and there is only one person in Konoha who is capable of performing this kind of operation. I see, it's Tsunade-sama. I met Tsunade-sama in the hospital a few days ago. Soseki nodded, then sighed. If I knew it would turn out like this, I would have asked where Tsunade-sama lived. Asuma rubbed his chin and said, that old fogey should know where Tsunade-sama lives. I'll go back and ask him. At this time, Shizune raised her right hand weakly. Actually, Tsunade-sama is living with me now. That's great, Asuma shouted excitedly at first, and then asked in confusion, however, Shizune, why do you live with Tsunade-sama? Could it be that you are Tsunade-sama's illegitimate daughter? That's not it, Shizune explained embarrassedly. Tsunade-sama was my uncle's girlfriend. After my uncle passed away, she has been taking care of me at my house. Oh, so that's how it is. That's right, let's go to Tsunade-sama to rescue Mizuki. However, Shizune not only didn't leave, but hesitantly said, actually, Tsunade-sama hasn't had an operation for a long time. Kurenai asked puzzledly, is it because there is no operation worthy of Tsunade-sama? Shizune shook her head. Tsunade-sama's hemophobia is something confidential, so she didn't know how to explain it for a while. When Soseki saw this, he took the initiative to clear the problem and said, Asuma, Kurenai, you don't need to participate in the next thing. Hearing this, Asuma was depressed. Huh? Why? Soseki spread his hands helplessly, and casually made up a reason. The next thing may involve some confidentiality regulations that only medical nin can participate in. Hearing this, the two had no choice but to agree. Okay, remember to inform us when there is news. At this moment, Mizuki, who was lying on the hospital bed, suddenly said, please take me with you. At least to let me know if it is still possible for me to become a shinobi. Soseki looked at Shizune and asked, is it alright? Shizune hesitated for a moment, and then nodded and said, as he is a patient, it should be fine. Chapter 27 Mizuki. She's a bad woman who plays with my feelings. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. AN1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. AN2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. In the bathroom, Soseki stood quietly in front of the mirror. Although the previous resonance therapy has had some effects, it still failed to overcome the last line of defense. This time, it is better to change to catharsis therapy, but it won't be easy to vent anger. Soseki gently rubbed his eyebrows and lowered his eyelids. Relatively speaking, anger may be the most difficult thing to disguise. It's okay to deceive the children, but I may be exposed when dealing with people like Tsunade. Then, I can only hypnotize myself temporarily. Splash. The refreshing water splashed on his face. Soseki raised his head, looked at himself in the mirror, and smiled slightly. Then, now I am a good class leader who is completely thinking about Mizuki's sake. He then gets out of the bathroom. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Shizune shook her head. It's fine. Mizuki, who was leaning on crutches, opened his mouth slightly, and finally said with difficulty, thank you. No, I can't gamble anymore. If I gamble again, I will lose all the tuition fees for Shizune. But, what if I win and get back my money? After losing so many times, it must be my turn to win. A crazy conversation resounded throughout the room. Boom. The door was slammed open, and Shizune angrily ran towards the stunned Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, didn't you promise not to gamble again? Tsunade obviously did not expect Shizune to appear at noon, and chuckled awkwardly. Haha, I haven't gone yet. Shizune puffed her cheeks, and reprimanded with her hands on her hips. If I didn't come back earlier today, you would have gone to the casino again. While Tsunade was embarrassed, she suddenly caught a glimpse of the two people standing at the door and quickly changed the subject. Shizune, are you inviting your classmates for dinner today? Hearing Tsunade's words, Shizune finally remembered that Soseki was still there. She hurriedly lowered her hands that were on her hips, dropped her head, which was too hot to think, and her body became stiff. Seeing Shizune's condition, Tsunade helplessly said, you guys can come in first. Tsunade-sama, sorry for interrupting your rest. Tsunade shook her head gently, and her eyes are fixed on Mizuki, who was leaning on crutches. You came here for him today. Soseki clearly felt that Mizuki's breathing become a lot faster, and then he said without the slightest hesitation, that's right. Mizuki was seriously injured by some bullies in the 3rd grade yesterday, and the hospital told us today that Mizuki may not be able to become a shinobi anymore. Tsunade frowned when she heard this. Although she had heard Shizune mention about the fight yesterday, she never expected it to be this serious. Is the current academy this chaotic? However, she also knew that now was not the time to pursue responsibility, and so took a few steps forward and pressed her right hand that is covered in chakra on Mizuki's shoulder. 1 second, 2 seconds, as long as a century has passed. Under the atmosphere where the air was almost freezing, Tsunade finally said slowly, it's really serious. Mizuki asked with a trembling body, then, do I still have a chance? It's not that there is no chance of recovery. Mizuki looked ecstatic at first, but soon heard Tsunade continued, but the risk of this operation is very high. From the perspective of a medical nin, I advise you to give up becoming shinobi. Mizuki was very shocked, and then, he suddenly raised his head and said, even if there is only a 10% chance of cure, I will never give up. Tsunade raised her eyebrows and looked at Mizuki in surprise. He is obviously just an ordinary little brat, yet he has such a belief. At this moment, Soseki asked in a timely manner, Tsunade-sama, what is the chances of a successful operation? Tsunade pondered for a moment and said, if I was in charge of the operation, the success would be 80%. That's great, Tsunade-sama, please. But, I won't do it. Mizuki's ecstatic expression solidified on his face. He opened his mouth, but did not speak. He didn't dare to refute the authority of a great person like Tsunade, so he can only lower his head sullenly, and his eyes are full of despair and resentment. Tsunade just told the truth. She was suffering from hemophobia, so she could not be in charge of the operation. But Mizuki didn't know that. In his opinion, this bad woman is basically playing with his feelings. Why do you all treat me like this? Why are everyone so evil? But at this moment, Soseki suddenly shouted loudly, Tsunade-sama, please wait. Mizuki really wants to become a shinobi, please give him a chance. Mizuki's body froze when he heard it, and Soseki's words seemed to shine into his heart. Even he himself did not dare to fight against power, but Soseki actually argued with such a great person for him. I didn't expect that the person I hate the most turn out to be the person who treats me the best. Perhaps, I simply hate myself because we're from the same dark background, but I can't be as bright as him. Tsunade was silent for a moment and then said, come with me. After saying that, she led Soseki into the guest room. It's not that I don't want to help him, but I really can't do it. After the last war, I got hemophobia. Tsunade smiled self-deprecatingly, isn't it ridiculous? As a medical nin, I actually fear blood. Tsunade has already acknowledged the protagonist here, and she doesn't care about leaking the so-called secret of hemophobia. Tsunade did not wait for Soseki's ridicule or comfort, but heard him talk about other things. As a child, I heard such a story told by wandering samurai from other villages. He said that in the far west there is a country called the Land of Sound, where there are many great musicians, and the best among them is called Beethoven. Orochimaru's shinobi village is located on the formerly named land of rice fields. Tsunade muttered to herself, Beethoven? What a weird name. However, at the peak of his life, he became deaf in both ears. Tsunade raised her eyebrows and asked, then what? He didn't give in to fate. Even in this predicament, he still created countless music masterpieces and eventually became the best musician in the Land of Sound. He said that he wanted to strangle the throat of fate. Strangle the throat of fate. Tsunade looked shocked, and was silent for a moment. She did not dare to look directly at Soseki's hopeful gaze. Are you telling me this story to encourage me? It's useless. I don't have the courage like Beethoven in the story. Before Tsunade could finish her sentence, Soseki shouted excitedly, I know it's difficult. However, if you think you can't do it without even trying, that kind of person is really bad. However, Tsunade remained just silent. Even she herself is not sure whether she is afraid of blood or the memories brought by blood. Outside the door, Mizuki vaguely heard the fierce roar from the room, and as if electrocuted, tears could not stop pouring out from his eyes. Class leader. He is actually arguing with that kind of great person for me. Is this the warmth of light? Chapter 28 Tsunade. It's up to you. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Soseki does not know the inside story of Tsunade's hemophobia, and still persuaded fiercely, you are the one of the legendary Sannin, Tsunade-sama, the greatest medical nin in our Konoha, so you will definitely defeat that damned hemophobia. Tsunade still looked depraved and said, what is the use of high medical skills? Not only can't we save this desperate world, but even our cherished people can't be saved. Soseki was silent for a moment, and his tone became heavy. I don't know what kind of setback you have encountered, and I don't have the qualification to persuade you to forget the pain. However, from the standpoint of a medical nin, we must be strong. If even we give up, then there will be no light in this world. In this world, life is not easy for everyone, and no one lives easier than the others. There are many students in our class who lost their families in the war, but these are not reasons for us to give up hope, and because of their sacrifices, we should cherish the present. Seeing that Tsunade being silent, Soseki pointed at the door while the iron was still hot and said, Mizuki has lost his family and friends, and now, is he going to even lose the only dream he has? There was a struggle in Tsunade's eyes, but she finally shook her head, sorry. I was wrong, you may be our Konoha's most powerful medical nin, but you are not the greatest medical nin at all. Soseki looked at his idol's dismayed frustration, such a cowardly Tsunade-sama is really disappointing. Don't say that to Tsunade-sama. Shizune rushed in angrily, stand in front of Tsunade protectively, and glared at Soseki. Tsunade-sama must have her own reasons for doing this. Tsunade put her right hand on top of Shizune's head, and sighed with a bitter smile, he is right, I am indeed a coward. Shizune turned around in disbelief, Tsunade-sama, you. Tsunade shook her head slightly, let out a deep breath, and then looked at Soseki sharply, I am indeed a coward, but, do you really have the courage to take on everything? I don't know. Soseki pursed his mouth, raised his head, and looked towards Tsunade with a very determined look, but, I have the faith to protect everyone. Quote. Well, I will guide you in training, and then you will perform the operation on him yourself. Quote. Me, perform the operation? Quote. You have to think about it, as the consequences of a wrong operation can be fatal. Tsunade looked Soseki with a calm gaze, except for me, the success of this operation for other Konoha's medical nin will not exceed 30%, and for you, my requirement is that your success is not less than 50%. Soseki fell silent again. At this time, Mizuki also walked in and said excitedly, class leader, just promise her. If it's you, I won't have any doubts. Quote. Tsunade subconscious remembered what Shizune mentioned yesterday, and secretly thought in her heart, sure enough, what an enviable trust. Quote. Soseki nodded solemnly, and immediately looked at Tsunade, Tsunade-sama, please take care of me from now on. The next day, early in the morning. Soseki lay on the cramped wooden bed and sighed in his heart, it's really not easy for a calm person like me to get angry. Fortunately, nothing went wrong yesterday. Although Tsunade still failed to overcome her hemophobia, Soseki was not surprised. After all, in the original work, Tsunade has experienced the baptism of Naruto's top no jutsu and the temptation to reincarnate her loved one with impure world reincarnation before finally making a decision and overcoming her fear of blood. Soseki knew that his remarks could not achieve the effect like Naruto's powerful top no jutsu, so he took the second choice, as long as Tsunade could use him to complete the operation, it is good enough. As for Mizuki's change, it is actually a blessing in disguise. With his personality, once he changes his mind, he will be more reliable than others. Quote. Only those who are filled with darkness will cherish the only ray of light they have. Quote. Quote. There is so much to talk about, the extension and expansion of Will of Fire. Please remember to review it when you go back. This is the key point that Hokage-sama has indicated to be included in the entrance examination. Okay, you can go out as the class is over. Quote. I have to memorize so much. Quote. When I become the Hokage in the future, the first thing I will do is to cancel all exams. Quote. We have to catch the author and spank them. The author of this book is Sandaime-sama. Quote. Oh, forget it then. Quote. Amidst the endless complaints, Asuma seemed quite embarrassed. After all, this book is his old man's proud work. Normally, in his spare time, he will even taste it himself at home. In order to divert attention, Asuma deliberately shouted loudly, Soseki, how is Mizuki now? Quote. Well, he has to let the other students know about their contributions. Hearing him shout like this, the others suddenly remembered that there was one less person in their class. That's right, Mizuki still didn't come to school today. Quote. I understand, he must be lazy. I was beaten by my parents yesterday, but I still come to school today. Quote. Asuma said in a serious tone, don't talk nonsense. Mizuki is seriously injured, and the hospital said that he may not be able to become shinobi anymore. Quote. Huh? How could it become like this? Quote. Although that guy Mizuki is not likable, but... Asuma waved his hand again, but don't worry, Soseki took him to find Tsunade-sama yesterday. And now, maybe he has already completed the operation, right, Soseki? Quote. Seeing everyone focusing on him, Soseki shook his head solemnly. For some special reasons, Tsunade-sama can't perform the operation on Mizuki. Quote. Hearing this, Asuma became anxious. Then, what should we do? Otherwise, I will go to that old fogey. He is Hokage, so there must be a way. Quote. Calm down first, Soseki reassured. Although Tsunade-sama can't perform the operation on Mizuki, there is still me. Huh? What do you mean? Tsunade-sama will guide me in my training, and then I will perform the operation on Mizuki. Quote. Hearing what Soseki said, everyone in the class breathed a sigh of relief. In their opinion, their class leader is much more reliable than Tsunade. Huh, it's great. With class leader here, Mizuki will definitely be able to come back. I'm almost scared to death. I'm really not happy. I really want to beat up those third graders again. Quote. That's right, Mizuki almost can't be a shinobi because of them. Let's find some time, and then go and beat those bastards. Sarutobi Asuma, Shimizu Soseki. When everyone was discussing the feasibility of beating people, a few shouts untimely shouting joined in. Then, all kinds of fierce and violent gaze were cast outside the classroom. The eyes of the two sides met, and Shunin, who was appearing at the door, couldn't help but feel a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead. Did I hear it wrong just now? This group of first graders wanted to beat us again. Also, what's up with those murderous looks? Are these first graders all devils? Chapter 29 Soseki. As a medical nin, it makes sense for me to know a few. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Asuma took 2 steps forward very consciously, rubbed his fists and said, Are you here specifically to fight again? Hearing what Asuma said, everyone in the classroom smiled sinisterly. They were upset, and didn't expect this bastard to take the initiative to send himself to the door. Seeing that the smiles on the faces of these first graders became more and more sinister, Shunin quickly stopped them. Wait, I'm not here to fight with you. With that said, he turned his attention to Soseki. Shimizu Soseki, take care of your followers. Your provocation skills are not very good. Soseki spread his hands and said, There are no followers here, only my companions. Of course, people like you don't understand the meaning of companions at all. Of course, everyone in Soseki's class would not be provoked by a single sentence, but they were still a little upset. After listening to Soseki's words, they all showed their proud expressions. Well, what about your previous companions? I see, all of your companions have abandoned you. Shunin was annoyed upon hearing this, but he couldn't refute it. Because, when they heard that he wanted to regain the Uchiha clan's glory, his companions need to go because someone in their family is about to get married, or that the price of toilet paper in the market is about to increase, so they need to purchase it. They must really think that he is a fool, as they didn't even make up a decent reason. See Shunin unable to speak, Asuma's eyes lit up, and he mocked in a very rude tone. Did Soseki really guess it right? Tisk tisk, you are really a failure as a human being. Shunin waved his hand in embarrassment and said, Stop talking, I am not here to find you today. As he spoke, he widened his eyes and tried to look imposingly at Soseki. Wherever you fall, you need get up from there, so the glory that I lost from your hands will be taken back by me. Soseki blinked as he even couldn't understand the other person's thoughts for a while. In other words, mental patients have a wide range of ideas. Thinking of this, Soseki spread his hands helplessly. Okay, then how do you regain that glory? I want to defeat you in front of everyone. Shunin shouted with a stern look, but before he could finish speaking, everyone behind Soseki glared at him, and his imposing manner instantly changed into a stinky and rotten shrimp. I want a friendly exchange with you. Hearing this, Asuma on the side said contemptuously, You just said you didn't come here to fight with us. The corner of Shunin's mouth twitched. Of course I didn't come to fight. You, if the 69 of you attack at once, who can stand it? Soseki said with a slight smile, It doesn't seem fair that you third grade fight with me, a first grader. Shunin was a little embarrassed when he heard this. Although Soseki did not participate in the battle last time because he was healing Mizuki, it is not difficult for Shunin to know about Soseki's strength because he can defeat Asuma in the battle at the beginning of school, and he also has seen the strength shown by Asuma. He knew that Soseki is definitely not weak. It's okay to fight if he fights with all of his strength, but he doesn't have much confidence if he needs to give some handicap. Then I won't use the 3 bodies technique, so let's do it. That's not necessary. Soseki stood on the table, spreading his empty hands. As long as I win, you need to promise me one condition. Hearing this, Shunin asked cautiously, What condition? First of all, I won't be your subordinate. When he thinks about it, Soseki must have wanted to subdue him as his subordinate. Of course not. Soseki smiled helplessly, and immediately said with a serious expression, I just hope that if you lose, you can apologize to Mizuki, and also to all of the students who have been bullied by you in the past. Quote. Hearing the conditions mentioned by Soseki, the admiration in the eyes of the surrounding classmates became stronger, and the eyes that looked at Shunin were full of contempt. Compared with this Uchiha clan guy, our class leader is so reliable. Shunin opened his mouth in shock. He never thought that the other party would use this as a condition. It is obvious that this has nothing to do with him, as the other students are just strangers who he has never knew. So, he couldn't understand why he did this for those people. It should be known that this is a great opportunity to subdue him, the Uchiha clan's genius. Even as an opponent, a sense of respect instinctively appeared in Shunin's heart. Okay, I promise you. Well, let's go out now. Soseki does not reject the fight. The reason he did not agree to those delinquents, one-on-one, proposals before actually because he wanted to strengthen the cohesion of the class. As for now, proper demonstration of strength is also a necessary means to strengthen his leadership. Of course, this was also a decision he made on the premise that he had understood the opponent's strength from the group fight the day before yesterday. On the other side, Soseki won't in danger, right? Shizune asked worriedly. It's going to be a little troublesome. That bastard is no weaker than me, Asuma said with a serious expression. Really? Then I can rest assured. Shizune patted her chest in relief. Asuma turned back abruptly, with a question mark on his face, and he kind of feel offended. For children who are energetic and yearn for the approval of others, there are not a few who go to show off in front of the whole academy's students after learning 1 or 2 ninjutsu. But this battle is different. One is a super rookie who stirs up the situation as soon as he enters the academy, and the other is a brutal bully who makes all grades talk about him. Therefore, many people are very interested in this fight. Until Soseki and Shunin arrived at the training grounds, the guardrails of each floor of the teaching building were already full of people. Is that Uchiha Shunin stupid? Why would he dare to come to trouble the first grade? Who knows, Uchiha clan's people are not very normal after all. That's right, that bastard stole my lollipop before. First grade, you must beat him. Shunin didn't know what the people above said about him, however, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After finishing the seal of confrontation, Shunin grabbed a handful of shuriken from the ninja bag on his waist and threw it towards Soseki. Shuriken jutsu? If you've seen the battle 2 months ago, you should know that it happens to be what I am best at it. Soseki held a kunai and waved it in all directions with no difficulty. The shuriken that shot towards bounced off one by one. If you don't have anything else, wait, what is this? Soseki said, and was shocked to find that there was still a shuriken hidden in the last shuriken he blocked. Before he could think too much, Soseki hurriedly ducked sideways. Oh, this is the shadow shuriken jutsu that hides the second shuriken in a blind spot. You are indeed very powerful to be able to dodge it. It's a pity that any mistake in fighting against the Uchiha will be exploited. Shunin chuckled coldly, and as if he was an unpredictable prophet, he appeared in advance in the direction where Soseki's dodge, knocked Soseki away, and stepped on his face. Is the level of the so-called strongest new student only this much? It's nothing before the Uchiha's name. Soseki couldn't help but crying bitterly. I'm too weak. Shunin-sama, please accept me as your slave. Shunin raised his head and laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha. What is that idiot laughing at? I don't know, maybe the blow is too big that he becomes crazy. The annoying words that came to his ears, coupled with the coolness on his neck, made Shunin abruptly woken up. Then, he saw Soseki, who should have been stepped by him, is holding a kunai that is placed on his neck. It was genjutsu just now? Shunin was taken aback for a moment, and then he come back to his sense and looked towards Soseki with grief and indignation. Why, you, a medical nin, use illusion. Soseki said as if it was a matter of course, as a medical nin, it is reasonable for me to learn some genjutsu to make the patients forget their pain, right? Chapter 30 Awakening 1 Tomo. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. On the other side of the training grounds, Kurenai looked towards Asuma with a weird gaze. You said that guy is not weaker than you, and he was defeated by Soseki in an instant. Then, that means you would defeat it in an instant against Soseki in a fight, right? Asuma was embarrassed and argued, how did I know that guy would be such an idiot that he didn't guard against Soseki's genjutsu at all? Shizune added weakly, Soseki-kun is a medical nin, so isn't it normal for the other party not to be careful with genjutsu? Asuma and Kurenai glanced at each other. Asuma said with an awkward smile, haha, isn't it common sense to be careful of medical nins genjutsu? The people who were waiting to watch the good show on the teaching floor are also disappointed. Is this guy really come here to be funny? It's so boring, is it over? They're not playing us, are they? It's a pity that even if he belongs to the Uchiha clan, he was defeated by an ordinary person with genjutsu. That's right, even an ordinary person. Wait, can we call him an ordinary person? The few third graders who were mixed in the crowd feel fortunate and fearful. Fortunately, we didn't follow Boss Shunin to do such stupid things. That first year kid is simply a monster among monsters. Yeah, obviously Boss Shunin is so strong, but he was defeated by a genjutsu instantly. Why would you still call him boss? In my opinion, it's better to get rid of the relationship with this idiot who will only cause us trouble as soon as possible. That makes sense. In the field, Soseki retracted kunai, smiled, and said softly, Shunin, don't forget your promise. Go back to class, or you're going to be late and I'll also be late. Go back to class. Seeing Soseki's calm expression, it seemed that he didn't take this battle seriously, and with the sneering sounds around him constantly coming into his ears, Shunin's vision suddenly became covered with a layer of bloody mist. You bastard, don't make fun of me. This is, one tomo, although it's only on the right eye, it is indeed a remarkable achievement. Seeing the one tomo spinning in Shunin's scarlet pupils, Soseki was also really surprised. Except for some unreasonable geniuses, being able to awaken Sharingan at the age of 8, even if it is just one eye, is definitely a genius. It must be known that Sasuke Uchiha, whose talent is said to even surpass Itachi, was only awakened it when his whole clan were killed. Sure enough, the more seriously ill people are, the better their talents will be. Soseki sighed in his heart, and then chuckled, Shunin, is there anything else? Seeing Soseki's relaxed and calm appearance, Shunin then realized that he seemed to have lost. Even if he has a breakthrough now, the opponent has no reason to fight him again. It's annoying. Shunin looked sullen and depressed, and from the corner of his eyes, he suddenly caught a glimpse of his subordinates who said they were going to buy cheap toilet paper, but ended up in the crowd watching him being a joke. Seeing this, he was angry. However, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. Shimizu Soseki, I will go and apologize to your classmate, as well as the students I bullied before, as agreed. But, do you want to increase the stake a little bit? Soseki hesitated for a moment and, as if to make a firm resolution, he asked, how do you want to increase the stake? This guy is really a fool. I obviously saw that I awakened my Sharingan, but I was amazed. He still couldn't help but take the bait. Shunin secretly laughed in his heart, and a sense of superiority in IQ arose inexplicably. Let's have another fight, as long as you win, Shunin said, and suddenly gritted his teeth. No matter whether I won or lost in this fight, I will grab my companions, will go and apologize to your classmate and the students we have bullied before. After hearing the conversation between the two, the onlookers around them finally understood what Soseki was fighting for. Wow, this first-year student is helping us to get justice. It's so touching, he obviously doesn't even know us. It doesn't matter, I'm going to fail the class. I'm going to repeat the class. I'm going to wait to join them. At this moment, almost everyone has a good impression of this first-year, little son. As for the delinquents who were watching the show in the crowd, they were so angry that they vomited blood. This idiot boss actually sold us like that. Soseki pondered for a while, and then nodded earnestly. Since it's for everyone, then I'll have to skip class once. Hearing this, Shunin almost went berserk directly. He thought the other party was worried about losing too badly, but it turned out he was entangled because of such trivial matters. Thinking of this, he almost yelled in front of Soseki, I've awakened my Sharingan now, can you respect me? But when he thought of his cold expert persona, he suppressed his anger and said, are you ready? I'll start now. With that said, he inserted his right hand into the ninja bag on his waist. But for some reason, at this split second, he inexplicably remembered the scene he saw in the genjutsu before, and then his right hand subconscious touched the shuriken in the ninja bag. Whoosh, shadow shuriken jutsu. Faced with the shuriken coming from the sky, Soseki calmly threw all the shuriken he had prepared in his hand, and then shot down the shuriken thrown by Shunin one after another with great precision. To shoot down my shuriken with only one shuriken, this kind of precise control is impossible even if I have a Sharingan. Shunin's eyes couldn't help but widening upon seeing this. Of course he knew the difficulty of this approach, however, I am hiding in the blind spot. Ding, the last shuriken also fell to the ground. Seeing this situation, Shunin's eyes lit up, haha, dreams are really just dreams. At this moment, the sound of breaking through the air suddenly sounded in his ears. Damn, I forgot about his chakra threads. Shunin instinctively jumped to the left, and then, taking advantage of the gap between the shuriken spinning in the air, he hurriedly took out a kunai from the ninja bag to block the shuriken. Wait, this speed. The one tomo on Shunin's right eye spun quickly, and he waved his arm, and he blocked all of Soseki's attacks very easily. It's too slow. No, it was slowed down by my Sharingan. Shunin was overjoyed. It turned out that this is our Uchiha's true support that makes us be able to shake the shinobi world. The people who were originally shocked by Soseki's extremely accurate shuriken were once again shocked by Shunin. Amazing, is this the Sharingan? He was obviously defeated by Shimizu Soseki's genjutsu instantly before, but after awakening the Sharingan, he was actually able to suppress his opponent this time. This is just cheating. No way, is this the foundation of the noble Uchiha clan? Chapter 31 End of Battle. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Under Soseki's increasingly violent offensive, Shunin is still walking in a leisurely manner, just waving the kunai in his hand at will, and he can easily deflect the shuriken from all directions. Then, step by step, he is approaching Soseki. Before this eye, all your efforts are useless. This is the true glory of the Uchiha clan, and it is the gap that you ordinary persons will never be able to catch up. As a medical nin, how are you going to deal with my close attack? In Shunin's view, although his taijutsu is not very good, dealing with a medical nin won't be too much of a problem. After all, he had seen Soseki's battle 2 months ago, and his opponent's taijutsu was far behind him. The only thing worth paying attention to is the slightly troublesome medical ninjutsu. However, Soseki sighed helplessly. Shunin, has anyone told you that you are rambling too much? Then, under Shunin's disbelief expression, Soseki swiftly approached and hit Shunin's abdomen with a knee strike, knocking him directly into the air. Struggling to endure the pain of vomiting out his stomach's content, Shunin struggled to get up and shouted in grief and indignation, "Why? You are a medical nin, but why can you still go to taijutsu?" Soseki pondered for a moment and said, "As a medical nin, isn't it reasonable for me to learn taijutsu to protect myself?" Of course he wouldn't give up taijutsu training. After all, he has always coveted Tsunade's chakra-enhanced strength. As for his previous poor taijutsu, it was entirely because he didn't have a teacher to guide him. When it comes to the body, he doesn't dare to train recklessly. After becoming best friend with Asuma, he naturally gets the guidance from Asuma's teacher. Although the Okawa Takeuchi is only a Tokubetsu Jonin, he is indeed very capable in the field of systematic teaching. At least, he managed to temporarily make up for the shortcomings of his taijutsu. Shunin shouted aggrievedly, but your taijutsu 2 months ago is obviously not as good as mine. Soseki nodded and then said as if it is a matter of course, yes, but isn't that what happened 2 months ago? That Uzumaki Naruto can reach 6 paths level of strength in just 1 year, so for me, Shimizu Soseki, improving a little bit of taijutsu in 2 months is not a problem. Shunin's face showed a question mark. Although information indeed has a time limit, isn't it expired too quickly? It's just 2 months after all. If it's at his pace, wouldn't it? If I fight him again in 2 days, wouldn't I directly defeat it? Thinking of this possibility, Shunin's subconscious shuddered. In other words, this is my only chance to defeat him? There is nothing to be afraid of, it's just taijutsu. At least, his genjutsu is already. Probably didn't work against me, who has a Sharingan now, right? Shunin didn't dare to think about it any longer. He was a little scared, worried that if he thought about it like this, he would not even have the courage to fight anymore. Clone technique. Shunin quickly formed hand seals and creates 5 clones to surround Soseki. However, Soseki attacked one of them without hesitation, ignoring the attacks from the other, Shunin. As expected, this guy's perception is too strong. Shunin scolded inwardly, not daring to pretend anymore. While holding the kunai in his right hand and stabbing towards Soseki, his left hand secretly touched a ball of steel wire. Soseki tilted his head slightly to avoid the attack, and hit Shunin's chest with an elbow. Now, Shunin didn't dodge, but forcibly endured it. Enduring the intense pain from his chest, the ball of steel wire in his left hand entangled towards Soseki. Then, fire release. Phoenix Sage fire technique. The flame spread quickly across the steel wire until it completely swallowed Soseki. This level of attack is far from enough. Shunin, who had watched the battle 2 months ago, naturally understood that the opponent's use of free bodies technique was also very difficult to deal with. Just as Shunin was looking for flaws and preparing for the next round of attacks, the hot flame dissipated, and a charred corpse fell heavily to the ground. Shunin only felt that his IQ had been severely insulted, as he didn't believe that his opponent would be killed by this level of attack. Wait, is it his genjutsu again? Shunin was alert, and then suddenly those noisy voices rang in his ears. He's lost, it's boring. This is the noble Uchiha clan? It's so funny. Hearing this, Shunin felt annoyed. Damn, I've been hit a genjutsu again. I need to wake up quickly. But at this moment, the charred corpse on the ground suddenly rushed towards him. Then, before Shunin could react, a familiar cold feeling appears on his neck. Shunin asked in a daze, wait, isn't it genjutsu just now? Soseki chuckled and retracted the kunai. My corpse is not, but the voices you heard are. It turned out that it was sound genjutsu this time. Shunin's subconscious opened his mouth, not knowing what to say, and knelt on the ground as if he had been drained of energy. I lost. I, who owns Sharingan, would actually lose to an ordinary person. The glory of the Uchiha clan is completely lost in my hands. He didn't even dare to look up, or look at the people around him. He only felt that there were countless eyes full of ridicule and maliciousness behind him. Soseki was walking away, but when he heard Shunin's words, he stopped. Glory will not disappear just because of a defeat in a battle. In my opinion, the glory in your mouth is already lost as early as the first time you bullied the weak. Shunin suddenly raised his head, looked at Soseki and shouted hysterically, what do you know? It's because of my hard work that no one in the academy dared to speak ill of the Uchiha. Soseki looked at the other party with calm and pure gaze. Do you really think so? For some reason, Shunin did not dare to look directly at the other party's eyes for a while and then asked in a lack of confidence, yes, is there any problem? The corner of Soseki's mouth rose slightly. This guy is really young and inexperienced. If you really think like this, you won't be confused by my genjutsu. It's because you know that they don't recognize you in their hearts at all. Even your so-called companions are talking bad things about the Uchiha behind your back. That's why you are afraid that this lie will be exposed. No, they are obviously all afraid of me, and they all fear Uchiha's name. This is just a lie you weave yourself, a dream you used to deceive yourself. Could it be that Uchiha needs to rely on lies to numb their clan? Hearing this, even Shunin himself was at a loss. Could it be that I really have been lying to myself all this time? Seeing that Shunin has been beaten to the subversion of his worldview, and he looks like he is almost broken, Soseki felt that he could almost stop now. At the very least, I definitely don't believe that eliminating arrogance and prejudice can be achieved by violence. Shunin's subconscious asked, then, what should I do? Do you love your family? Although a little ashamed, Shunin, who is now in a brainwashed state, still nodded, love. Then does your family love you? Love. Soseki then said earnestly, goodwill is always mutual. If you don't even love this world, why would you ask the world to love you? If it is still not enough, add more time, as time will prove it all. Being brainwashed by Soseki's words, Shunin only felt that whole body is healed and sublimated. Seeing Soseki turned and left, Shunin shouted, I know, I will try my best to change all of this. Soseki didn't stop this time, and just waved his hand. Before that, go and ask them to forgive you for what you've done before. 33 Chapter 32 Soseki, you want me to graduate before I finish mooching? Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Time flies, and in a blink of an eye, a year has passed. In the actual combat class. Wind release, great breakthrough. 100 mountains rush. The strong hurricane blowing from Asuma's mouth was blown away by Soseki with a punch, and the air currents scattered towards the surroundings. Amid the turbulent cloud of dust, Soseki suddenly jumped out, his arms raised high, and he then slammed it fiercely into the ground in front of him. Boom. The ground cracked instantly, forming a crater, 5 meters in diameter. Looking at the destroyed clone in the crater, cold sweat broke out from Asuma's back. Why am I feeling that Soseki is getting more and more violent now? Seeing Soseki rushing towards him again, Asuma did not dare to be distracted, and while throwing a shuriken to disrupt Soseki's rush, he quickly formed hand seals. Fire release, dragon fire technique. Seeing a fire dragon blocking the road, Soseki's face didn't change as he greeted it with a fist. Of course, ordinary taijutsu user shinobi wouldn't dare to do something like this, but for him, it is just a matter of condensing yang chakra attribute in advance to heal his wound in advance, so there is absolutely no need to dodge it. The ferocious fire dragon was directly blown up, turning into sparks. Even Asuma was a little dumbfounded. Soseki was not so reckless last time. But he didn't have time to think too much, and could only barely make a few hand seals. Wind release, vacuum. On the way to the attack, Soseki stomped on the ground, and the earth trembled violently, causing Asuma's figure to slightly tilt to one side. It's bad, I made a wrong hand seal. Asuma's eyes widened. The small air mass that should have been spit out from his mouth could only be ejected from another channel. Poot. Hearing this gentle and long voice, Asuma blushed, and just as he was distracted, a gust of wind blew against him. Asuma looked up and saw that Soseki's fist had stopped firmly in front of him. On the other side, Yagami has already made a judgment. Shimizu Soseki, win. You two should form the seal of reconciliation, now. Soseki is really amazing. He torn apart such a ferocious fire dragon. Speaking of which, Asuma is really tenacious. Yeah, I also thought he would have given up challenging class leader long ago. Although he has never won once, but, PFFT, sorry, when I think that his winning percentage ranks is the last in the class, I feel that he is too miserable. In the quiet discussion among the surrounding students, Soseki patted Asuma's shoulder and said, how is it? Are you alright? HMPH, I just. Don't worry, he has long been used to losing. Ibiki, who his tongue become more and more venomous, said abruptly from the side. Asuma's eyes widened upon hearing this. You bastard, don't look down on me. I've been making a lot of progress now. In just 2, 3, 4, yes, in just 4 years, I will definitely be able to defeat Soseki. As he was talking, Asuma suddenly caught a glimpse of Shizune holding a small notebook and writing something. Shizune, what are you doing? Oh, I wrote down what you said. If you still lose in 4 years. Hearing this, Asuma showed his grievance and said depressed, Shizune, even you have become bad now. At this moment, Yagami called, students, please be quiet. I am very happy that everyone has entered the 2nd grade. Starting today, you all can be regarded as seniors in the academy. Hearing this, everyone's faces showed excited expressions and eagerness to try. They couldn't wait to show their senior style in front of the new students. However, don't think that you can relax. If you don't work hard, you might be overtaken by those new students one day. Many people secretly twitched his lips. They have now figured out Yagami's method. This is the first time he become a teacher, but they also learn from other teachers saying that they are the worst students he has ever taught. How can it be false? They are obviously his first students, so of course they can be said as the worst one. Seeing that everyone didn't seem to believe it, Yagami showed serious expression and said, don't think that I'm joking. In this year's new students, there are kids with talent that is no weaker than Soseki and the others. No way, among those new students, there are geniuses on the same level as class leader? Oh tilde the new students are indeed monsters. Asuma thought for a bit and said, Yagami-sensei is too much. How can I be classified as others? Hearing this, Ibiki couldn't help but said, don't worry, maybe Yagami-sensei didn't count you in it at all. Seeing this, Yagami was satisfied and nodded. Now, do you know the pressure of your previous seniors? Hearing this, everyone laughed shyly. Indeed, their previous 2nd grade seniors were really miserable, not to mention they are being bullied by their senpai, but they are also under pressure from their juniors. After explaining the precautions for the beginning of school, Yagami shifted his attention towards Soseki. Soseki, with your current strength, you can already apply for early graduation. What do you think about this? Everyone who were laughing and joking happily suddenly became silent, and they all turned their nervous and anxious gaze towards Soseki. Seeing Soseki's silence, Yagami said again, except for the war period, the academy's earliest graduation record is 7 years old. If you apply for graduation now, you will be able to break the previous record. In the shinobi world where the genius prevails, creating various records is something to be proud of. Therefore, the eyes of the classmates also dimmed. They were reluctant to let Soseki go, but they were also unwilling to give up the honor that belonged to Soseki. However, Soseki doesn't want to graduate early. He is mooching well now, so how could he give up his plan because of such boring things? Furthermore, Konoha is not a charity. Once he graduates, he will need to join a team to perform missions. After all, a large part of the cost of maintaining Konoha's operation comes from the commission of completing missions. Except for some special circumstances, shinobi must complete the assigned mission quota every month before taking a break. For Soseki, who is in the stage of rapid improvement, he naturally does not want to waste his precious time on such boring missions. Of course, it's not nice to decline it without reasons, so his statement naturally would be, the more you learn, the knowledge I learn, the more I can understand my own insignificance and ignorance. For such a shallow me, early graduation is not a suitable choice. Soseki said, and then his gentle eyes swept over everyone. More importantly, I promised to advance and retreat with everyone. Quote. There was a moment of silence on the training grounds, and then a burst of cheers erupted like a tide. Great, I know that class leader will not abandon us. Damn, we are all dragging down Soseki. Starting today, I will double my training intensity. On the side, the corner of Yagami's mouth formed a subtle arc. Hee, do you think that as a teacher, I will not use the new method? Chapter 33 Shunin. I'm Soseki's rival. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. AN1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. AN2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. The Academy. That, haha, thank you so much for yesterday, Rin. A little boy wearing goggles thanked the little girl beside him helplessly. Hee, that's what it should be. Rin put her hands behind her back, and then she said with a youthful and lively smile on her face, however, Obito, you have to arrive earlier next time. Don't be late like yesterday. Obito nodded and nodded again like a chicken pecking at rice, and then he racked his brains to think about the topic. Well, Rin, I was late yesterday. Can you tell me about our classmates? Of course, Rin approached Obito and introduced him in a low voice. This is Suzuki, that is IY. Ellipsis quote. However, Rin apparently didn't notice that this boy beside him didn't listen to her at all, and just stared at her in daze. Hee, Rin looks good when she blushes. Obito thought like this, and then, he seemed to be struck by lightning. Wait, Rin is blushing while looking at other boys. Obito hurriedly returned to his senses. Rin, you spoke too fast just now. I didn't hear clearly. Who was the last classmate again? It's Kakashi. Looking in a certain direction, Rin lowered her head shyly. Sure enough, Rin blushed when she looked at that little white-haired bastard. Obito showed annoyed expression, and said sourly, except for being a little more handsome than me, he doesn't seem to be anything special. Quote. No, Rin shook her finger lightly. When I reported yesterday, a teacher said that Kakashi's talent is no weaker than the previous genius, Soseki-senpai. Soseki-senpai, I seem to have heard that name from somewhere. Obito murmured, and just as he wanted to ask more questions, there was a sudden commotion on the other side. You little brat, how dare you hit me? Do you look down on us seniors? I didn't do anything. Ha, so you mean I ran into you on purpose? That was not what I meant. Then you bumped into me on purpose. Hurry up and give me some money, otherwise don't blame me for teaching you what the awesomeness of a senior is. Obito followed the voice and found that several people dressed like delinquents were surrounding a watermelon-headed student and yelling at him. Rin exclaimed in a low voice, it's my guy. It's bad, those people are bullies in the 4th grade and they like to bully new students the most. What, is that watermelon head in danger? Obito immediately rushed up with blood rushing up his head when he heard his classmates was being surrounded. Obito, wait, Rin shouted hurriedly, and followed along. There is another new student who is standing up for others. Could it be that he is a monster like that Shimizu Soseki? Thinking of last year's tragic experience, the delinquent's expressions turned very ugly. On the first day, there was a student who I didn't know helped me. Father was right, this is the passionate power of youth. Guy screamed while giving a thumb up towards Obito. Obito's body shivered upon hearing this. Why'd I feel that this watermelon head is not right? Seeing the other side's fiery gaze, Obito hurriedly turned his attention to the delinquents. You guys, stop bullying him. On the other side, the delinquents are discussing in a low voice. I heard that there is a monster among this year's new students named Hitaki Kakashi. Could it be him? Really? But why'd I feel this little brat is an idiot? We can't say that. Isn't that idiot Uchiha Shunen's strength is very strong? That makes sense. Let's try it out first. After the discussion, one of the delinquents stood up and said, Hitaki Kakashi, don't you? Sorry to interrupt you, but I am Kakashi. The white-haired boy who was calmly watching the show suddenly said. Wait, then he is. You bastards, you better remember me. The name of this lord is Uchiha Obito. Obito felt seriously insulted and shouted. Uchiha? Obito? The delinquents looked at each other, and then turned around with a grinning smile. HMPH, let me show you how powerful Uchiha is. Obito glanced at Rin secretly, rushed up with a roar, and then threw a punch. In just one round, Obito had already been trampled under the foot of the delinquents. What a weak strength. It is so touching that such a weak person came to save me. At the side, Guy cried out loudly. Obito almost died of anger upon hearing this. Bastard, I just fell accidentally. Hearing this, the corners of everyone's mouth twitched silently. Can someone accidentally fell into under someone else's foot? Don't be afraid, I'll save you. A round later, Guy and Obito were trampled under the other party's foot side by side. I thought this year's new students were amazing. Is that all? If you don't have strength, don't try to be strong. The new students around were full of anger, but they didn't dare to refute it. There are also many people who secretly look towards Kakashi, hoping that the strongest new students from teachers' perspective to stand for them. It's a pity that the other party is not even interested in moving. At this moment, a slightly deep voice came from the distance. Kento, Ryota, you guys dared to bully the other students again. Hearing this voice, all of the delinquents shouted while gnashing their teeth. Uchiha Shunen, why do you keep pestering us? Because I want to be a good person now. Damn, we will fight with you. The delinquents rushed up, but were defeated by Shunen easily. What a powerful strength. Kakashi, who had been indifferent before, also flashed a look of surprise in his eyes. Obito shouted cheerfully, that's cousin Shunen, he's very amazing. Guy nodded seriously, and then asked suspiciously, aren't you also from the Uchiha clan? Why are you so weak? Obito felt that his lungs were about to explode when he heard this. His eyes were fixed on Guy, and it took a long time for him to say, I'm still young, isn't it normal if I'm weak? After doing his daily good deed, Shunen suddenly looked towards Kakashi's direction. I heard before that there was someone with amazing talent like Soseki among the new students, but now that I see it, you are much worse than him. Hearing this, Kakashi frowned and said, how do you know if you haven't fight me? Shunen shook his head and said with a pious expression on his face, no, the result is already determined. Because your magnanimity is not as good as him. Obito didn't understand, and asked in confusion, magnanimity? Shunen then said earnestly, if it were Soseki, he will definitely stand up for the others. All you see is yourself, and what Soseki sees is this world. Although Kakashi was a little unhappy in his heart, he didn't bother to refute it. Obito smiled wide-eyed upon hearing this, haha, does that mean my magnanimity is better than him? Shunen hesitated for a while and said, no, you were just plain foolish. Seeing Obito's resentful expression, Rin took the initiative to come over to relieve the tension and said, Shunen-senpai, thank you for helping us. Shunen's eyes were calm, don't worry, I can do some good things before challenging him, and I can also strengthen my own belief. After seeing Shunen's strength and suddenly hearing this information, Guy come over excitedly and asked, Shunen-senpai, who are you going to challenge? Shunen breathed deeply and then said, he's the one who guided me out of my mistakes, Shimizu Soseki. Chapter 34 Academy Festival. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Wow, it turned out to be Soseki-senpai. On the side, Rin cheered with little stars twinkling in her eyes. Dangerous. Seeing Rin's reaction was even more serious than when she saw Kakashi before, Obito instantly realized the crisis. Guy asked excitedly, is it a senior in later year? Rin shook her head and answered, no, Soseki-senpai is the second-year senior. Obito twitched his lips. What? It turns out that he is only 1 year older than us. You are not a medical nin, so of course you don't understand how amazing Soseki-senpai is. Rin clasped her hands in front of her chest, and said admiringly, Soseki-senpai is Tsunade-sama's disciple, and he was able to preside over some minor operation in the hospital in just 1 year. Obito scratched his head when he heard this. Is it really amazing? Why'd I feel that I can beat him? Guy looked towards Shunen and asked suspiciously, Senpai, the person you want to challenge is a medical nin? Even if Shunen has already looked away, his body trembled when he was suddenly asked this question, and there was a trace of grief and anger in his eyes. Medical nin is the most annoying to deal with. Everyone around is looking at him with strange eyes. Why does it feel that Shunen-senpai's voice is like crying? This must be an illusion. Guy was surprised and exclaimed, in just 1 year, does that senior already have the same level of strength as Shunen-senpai? Shunen calmed down his restless heart and returned his normal state again. To be precise, it was 2 months. It took him only 2 months to surpass my 3 years of hard work. Hearing this, Obito shouted in disbelief. How is it possible? Cousin Shunin, you are a genius who was able to awaken Sharingan when you were just 8 years old. My Sharingan was awakened during my battle with him. Shunin sighed and said with recollection in his eyes, it can even be said that if I hadn't awakened my Sharingan, I wouldn't even have the ability to resist him. Hearing what Shunin said, Obito and the others could not help but widen their eyes in shock. Shunin-senpai is already so strong, but he actually said that he isn't Soseki-senpai's opponent. Obito was the who was shocked the most. He often heard the adults of the clan talk about how powerful his cousin Shunin is, but he didn't expect that he would be disillusioned on the first day of school. Even Kakashi, who pretended to be indifferent but actually pricked up his ears and listened to this, was surprised. He had heard his father say that Uchiha is an extremely prideful clan. Even the prideful Uchiha say such things. Shimizu Soseki, I'm starting to get a little interested in this boring academy life. Guy, who was eager for youth and blood, had his eyes shining after hearing this, and then he looked at Shunin with extremely passionate gaze and said, Shunin-senpai, can we also watch a battle? Of course there's no problem. Shunin shivered at the passionate gaze, and quickly turned his eyes away. Moreover, you can also drop by to participate in the Academy Festival. Rin asked curiously, the Academy Festival? What is that? Shunin organized his words and said, it means that students from all grades form clubs according to their hobbies, and then invite other students, or the people from the village to join together. In short, it is a place for you to meet friends and establish yourselves. Wow, it sounds interesting. Rin clapped her hands cheerfully, but soon a new doubt arose. But why haven't I heard of it before? Because this was proposed by Soseki just before the last semester's holiday. Shunin said, and then patted Obito's shoulder. You guys sure are lucky. You just happened to enroll in time with the first Academy Festival. Guy's eyes lit up as he listened from the sidelines. That's great. I'm going to form the Power of Youth Club. Does anyone want to join? However, as long as it was within his sight, everyone around turned their heads as quickly as possible. Seeing Guy's unwillingness, Obito quickly changed the subject. Will anyone really participate in this Academy Festival? After all, that Soseki-senpai was just a new student last year, right? Shunin, who has been brainwashed by Soseki, said in the most determined tone, if it were him, there would be no problem. Without waiting for them to ask questions, Shunin took the initiative to explain, this is because everyone in every grade is very convinced of him. Speaking of which, the reason Soseki can have such a reputation, can also be credited to me. I know, it must be because you, cousin Shunin used to be the most powerful person in the academy. Obito made a deduction with a look of resentment. After Shimizu Soseki defeated you, he seized your position as the strongest. Great words, maybe it's not wrong. Shunin's eyes were weird, but in terms of status, you can say that I'm the most disliked person in the academy. Huh? Obito tilted his head and asked in confusion, what do you mean? Well, it's because I used to be a bully among bullies. Shunin smiled frankly without the slightest embarrassment. Those bastards who attacked you just now were actually my subordinates. Hearing this, the surrounding students exclaimed in unison, Hua. Obito also stammered and asked, what the hell is going on? It seems that the clansmen have never said how much bastard I used to be. Oh, that's right. They only care about my Sharingan's awakening. Shunin laughed at himself, and then put both of his hands on Obito's shoulders and said sternly, I used to be too extreme and didn't understand the true meaning of love at all. I thought that using violence to make people revere the Uchiha is the love for my father, and I think I can get the love of my classmates without paying anything. It was Soseki who woke me up and get me out of that illusion. So nauseous, is cousin Shunin not shy at all? Obito felt goosebumps all over his body upon hearing this, and just as he was thinking about how to escape this devil's claws, the corner of his eye suddenly drifted to Rin, who was beside him. Wait, if I can be as cheeky as cousin Shunin, will I be able to say I love Rin in front of her? Ehehe. Thinking of this, Obito's gaze became extremely firm. Cousin Shunin, I understand. Shunin nodded with relief, and said a little sentimentally, sometimes, mistakes have already been made, and no matter how much you do, things can't be undone, so don't be a bastard like me in the future. Obito nodded in understanding even if he didn't understand, and at this moment, Guy slapped him on the shoulder. Shunin-senpai, it's okay, Obito is so weak that he definitely can't be a bad guy. Obito staggered, and almost dropped face first into the ground. After barely stabilizing his body, he looked at Guy with resentful gaze. Although this guy was talking for him, he couldn't be happy at all. Seeing that Obito has such a reliable companion, it seems that he won't be like me. Shunin sighed in his heart, and then beckoned, let's go. The Academy Festival will be held in the small forest behind the academy. Chapter 35 Give Me Respect. Published by Web Novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Are there any students who want to join our food club? We have Akamichi clan's top barbecue students here. Come here for those who like insects. Our president is Aburame clan's insect incubation expert. Along the way, there are new and interesting things everywhere. While the new students are dazzled by the sight, they also eliminate the small grudges brought by the previous episodes in their hearts and begin to integrate into this large group. I also want to set up a service club to help everyone. Obito was inspired after seeing this, and suddenly asked, what kind of club did that Soseki-senpai establish? Shunin pointed in one direction and said helplessly, see for yourself. Obito looked in the direction Shunin was pointing, and suddenly found a club surrounded by dozens of girls. It clearly says, Psychology Club. At this moment, Obito admitted that he was jealous. Why are there so many girls around there? Do girls like that kind of boring club? No, they don't like it. Then why are they crowding there? Shunin patted Obito's shoulders, and said in a heavy tone, because Soseki is handsome. What? Hearing this answer, Obito almost doubted his life. Is that okay? After rushing over and jumping up to take a look, Obito had to admit that the other party seemed to be a little bit more handsome than him. If that white-haired Kakashi is the cold moonlight, then Soseki-senpai is the warm sunshine. Bah, why would I think about the two of them? Fortunately, Rin is not so shallow, Obito thought with such relief, and then a form was stuffed into his hand. Obito looked up and saw Rin standing in front of him while blushing. Obito, let's join the psychology club to support Soseki-senpai. At this moment, Obito seems to hear a broken sound. On the other side, Shunin was struggling to squeeze into the crowd. Sorry, please let me in. Can you let me in? I want to go in. Get out of the way. I'm the supervillain, Uchiha Shunin. Shunin's voice gradually became more irritated. However, it was useless in front of this group of fanatical girls. Not only did he not squeeze in, he was even thrown out. Am I really the academy's bully? Shunin, who was thrown outside the crowd, looked blank and suddenly thought of something. If I accidentally won last year, wouldn't I be gone now? Thinking of this, Shunin instinctively shivered, and seemed to have made up his mind. He cleared his throat, loudly roared, hey, the keys to Soseki's house seem to have fallen on the ground. Where is it? The crowd dispersed in an instant. Taking advantage of the gaps between these little girls were looking around, Shunin quickly seized the opportunity and jumped in. Ha, I finally made it. On the opposite side, Soseki smiled slightly. What, are you planning to come to me again to regain that Uchiha's lost honor? Shunin blushed and said, no, my beliefs are different now. Really? Didn't you tell me before that we, the Uchiha, are the clan who know how to love the most, but this kind of love is easy to reach the extreme. Just like me before, I obviously didn't know anything, but I was thinking that everything I did is for Uchiha's honor. That's why I said that we must strengthen our ideological construction. Soseki sighed in his heart. In his opinion, this problem is not unique to the Uchiha clan, but actually a common problem of the entire shinobi world. In a world where they need to go to the battlefield at the age of 11 or 12, the growth of their minds is naturally deformed. What is even more frightening is that the so-called thinkers in this world like to ponder on their own without communicating with others, and then feel that they have mastered the truth of the world. It must be known that even in Soseki's previous life, the birth of every kind of thought must have undergone countless collisions of inspiration to reach perfection. No one is omniscient and omnipotent, and no one can be right forever. The narrow vision will inevitably lead to the limitation of thinking. Just after seeing the withered flowers and plants, they think they have mastered the mystery of the world, which is naturally very ridiculous. However, when these people hold great power in their hands, the ridiculous becomes terrifying. Therefore, those in power put forward such a set of rhetoric. Shinobi are just tools, and tools should not have their own thoughts. But it is precisely because of this, which in turn limits the exchange of ideas. Seeing Soseki sinking into contemplation, Shunin thought that he agreed with his views, so Shunin's tone became more and more excited. However, there are too many people in our Uchiha clan who are as extreme as I was before. I can't change them, and the only way to do that is to slowly influence them through the promotion of status. Therefore, I want to become stronger, and for that, I want to fight you again. Shunin understands this very clearly. Isn't the reason he was enlightened by Soseki was on the basis that Soseki defeated him? After all, who would listen to a preaching of a loser? Since you have asked for it like this, then all right. Soseki naturally wouldn't reject the other party's request to get beaten, and it was indeed a pleasant thing to be able to reap the other party's thanks after beating him. However, it's best to set the time after today's academy festival ends. Why, can't it be now? For now, you might have to deal with the students behind you first. Shunin's body became stiff, and he slowly turned around to look. Behind him was a large group of vicious girls who were rubbing their fists and staring at him maliciously. Wait, I'm the academy's bully. Give me respect, don't slap me. Then, a long-lasting scream and wailing echoed in the forest. Ha, I finally finished distributing the flyers. Asuma sat next to Soseki and complained, how come there are so many people participating in such a boring club? Quote. Soseki smiled helplessly, isn't it too rude to say that the club is boring in front of me, the founder? Haha, what's the relationship between us? Asuma sneered and he put his arm around Soseki's shoulder. Speaking of which, I thought you would set up a medical club. Actually, I planned to do that at first, Soseki said, and then sighed. However, Mizuki's inferiority complex and Shunin's extremeness make me change my mind. If there is a place for them to talk, maybe a lot of things will be different. Seeing that Soseki was feeling a little depressed, Asuma clapped his palms suddenly and changed the subject. By the way, Soseki, I heard that there are a lot of Kumogakir's caravans in the village, but I haven't seen anyone from the other villages yet. After the festival is over, should we go check it out? Maybe there are some special products from the Land of Lightning. Kumogakir? Soseki's eyes fluctuated slightly, and immediately jokingly said, Land of Lightning's special product seems to be alcohol. If Hokage-sama knows, it is estimated that his blood pressure would rise again. HMPH, he is allowed to peek at the woman taking a bath and I am not allowed to. Cough cough. 37 Chapter 36 How long can Shunin hold on? Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. In the evening, the freshness brought by the Academy Festival has gradually dissipated, but everyone still lingered in the small forest, unwilling to leave. Haha, although I have forgiven that Uchiha Shunin guy, that doesn't stop me from watching him get beaten up. The bed is open, the bed is open. Guess how long Uchiha Shunin can last in Soseki's hands this time. Quote. I put 5 shuriken and bet he could hold it for 5 minutes. I put an explosive tag, and bet he could last for 3 minutes. Quote. On the side, when Obito saw this, he couldn't help but said annoyedly, damn, how can these bastards do this? Quote. Shunin himself didn't care much, I'm no match for Soseki in the first place. Saying that, Shunin suddenly react, wait, could it be that you make a bet too? Hearing this, Obito nodded shyly. Shunin patted Obito's shoulder moodily, good brother, but don't do this again next time. At this point, Guy came over with an unconvinced expression. I made a bet with my Power of Youth Club's quota at stake, but they actually do not accept it. Quote. Obito squinted his eyes upon hearing this, your quota? No one would like such thing. By the way, Obito, I just saw you bet that Shunin-senpai can only hold on for a minute, isn't it too risky? What's wrong with your eyes? Why are you blinking so fast? Do you want to awaken your Sharingan too? Quote. Why should I know this idiot? Obito felt grief and indignation in his heart, and he inexplicably felt that the pressure on his shoulders suddenly seemed to be much heavier. He turned his head stiffly, just in time to meet his cousin's kind eyes. How'd I feel that this guy has a certain aura that he is sure to win? Soseki didn't know what kind of human tragedy happened just now, and just saw Shunin walking calmly. Soseki, this time, I will hold on to 6. Shunin was about to say his determination, but suddenly thought about it, wouldn't it be even more embarrassing if I couldn't do the big words I said? And then he continued, 5.5 minutes. Really? Then, I'm looking forward to it. After forming the seal of confrontation, Shunin jumped back immediately, and at the same time, his hands quickly formed hand seal. Fire release, great fireball technique. Soseki threw a punch without any change in expression, directly dispersing the fireball. The sparks scattered and Shunin seized the opportunity to hide in the forest. Compared with the training grounds in the academy, there are various trees and bushes in the forest. And when fighting against taijutsu user, this kind of location is naturally very good. Soseki was not surprised when he saw this, and just stood quietly in the middle of the forest. Suddenly, a few small fireballs suddenly appeared and shot directly from behind Soseki. At the same time, Shunin took the initiative to jump out and follow behind the fireballs, as if to launch a joint attack with these fireballs. Soseki noticed the movement and turned around, but instead of punching him like before, he grabbed a few shuriken from his ninja bag and threw them at the fireballs. Before everyone around him could wonder why Soseki would do such a stupid thing like throwing shuriken towards the fireballs, they heard a few colliding sounds, and the shuriken hidden in the fireballs were shot down to the ground. The fireballs that originally covered the shuriken also dissipated. How is it possible? How could you see it? Shunin shouted in disbelief. This is the tactics he came up with after thinking for a long time. The sound of pure fireballs is different from the fireballs that hides the shuriken. Soseki's voice was calm, as if nothing can make him panic. Is that even possible? Shunin asked in doubts, and then suddenly realized, wait, I have already lost the opportunity, and now that I rushed forward, didn't that mean that I'm going to fight in taijutsu battle with Soseki? Thinking of this, Shunin abruptly stopped, threw a shuriken at Soseki, and then hurriedly fled to the nearby forest. Ha, I'm saved for the time being. Hearing the steel colliding sound behind him, Shunin, who hid behind a big tree, looked happy. Then, with an explosion sound, a fair arm punched through the tree behind him and stopped right next to his ear. Gulp. Looking sideways, Shunin swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. Then, with a crunching sound, the tree collapsed. For the new students who just entered the academy, seeing the fierce battle in front of them naturally caused them to exclaim. Amazing, Soseki-senpai is really amazing. So powerful, and also much more brutal. It's obviously his size is the same as this, but it actually contains such terrifying power. Obito, who has 2 panda eyes on his face, was also shocked, so strong. Cousin Shunin is not his opponent at all. Kakashi's face was a little solemn, eyesight, hearing, as well as the control of power are all unexpectedly strong. Could it be that this is the person father mentioned who is stronger than me? In the field, Shunin fleeing in the forest, along with a rumbling sound, from time to time a big tree was destroyed. In just a few dozen seconds, Shunin was already in danger. In this regard, Shunin is also very desperate. His biggest confidence this time was the technique that hid the shuriken in the fireball before. He wanted to take advantage of surprising Soseki, and hit him when he least expected it. But who knows that Soseki actually doesn't follow his plan at all. Calm down, there is still chance. Shunin took a deep breath and fled while observing the surrounding terrain, looking for opportunities. Can these piled up trees be used? If they can be ignited at the same time. Wait, what is that? While Shunin was thinking calmly, out of the corner of his eyes, he suddenly saw the transparent and thin threads attached to the forest. Or rather, a web. This is a web made from chakra threads? It seems that you have discovered it. Then, it's time to end this battle. As soon as the words fell, Shunin was tied in midair. Although his current posture seems a bit shameful, Shunin can't care so much about it. Looking at Soseki below, he asked in disbelief, when did you find the time to be distracted and control the chakra threads? Soseki put down Shunin and said with a smile, perhaps it's because the fight this time didn't involve too much time in my taijutsu. Shunin reluctantly accepted this answer. That's right, he must have done it when I was running in the forest. At this time, the little gamblers were already wailing. Too fast, only 50 seconds and he already lost. How could it be? Isn't Uchiha Shunin able to hold on for 2 minutes last time? Shunin blushed when he heard this. It's not like he didn't want to hold longer either, but fighting with Soseki was not easy at all, as any mistake would be magnified infinitely. Haha, Rin is right as expected, cousin Shunin really is. On the other side, Asuma came up. Soseki, are you ready to go now? Soseki nodded, but before he could take a few steps, he was stopped by a white-haired kid. Chapter 37 Kakashi's Defeat. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Asuma looked unhappy. New student, what do you want? However, Kakashi completely ignored his existence and just looked at Soseki. I'll introduce myself. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. Quote. Soseki smiled gently and said, my name is Shimizu Soseki. It's the first time we meet, so please take care of me. Quote. Kakashi nodded. Okay, now. Everyone around was puzzled. Did we jump through time? Why does it feel like a dialogue is missing in the middle? Even Soseki also stunned for a moment, and then he chuckled lightly. Was he a communication idiot who didn't understand communication and polite exchanges at all? Of course, there are some geniuses who have the pride. Asuma on the side also understood, and asked with a cold expression, you mean, you want to teach Soseki? Kakashi looked puzzled and said, didn't he ask me for advice? Quote. Asuma was stunned, as he is unable to tell whether this guy was arrogant or just really stupid. Soseki smiled helplessly. I'm happy to accept your advice, but I've already made an appointment with my friend today, so we should do it next time. Is that so? I understand. Kakashi nodded thoughtfully and said with a hint of arrogance, I will try to end the battle within 1 minute. Quote. Asuma then looked at Kakashi with sympathy in his eyes. This child is just really stupid. As for the reaction of the people around them, it was. I did not expect this white-haired brat would have so much self-confidence. This guy saw Uchiha Shunin's performance and still think he can hold on for 1 minute? He's clearly very arrogant. Quote. Oh, so that's what it is. Quote. Or this year's new students are also arrogant? Quote. Kakashi became a little sullen after hearing this. He is not the kind of people who like to show off, and the reason why he challenged Soseki, including his fighting spirit, has been ignited after watching the battle. It is also because he is not convinced by his father's evaluation. But are these bastards deaf? Why did it suddenly become that I said that I will hold on for 1 minute in the fight? What's more hateful is that they said I'm very arrogant just because of holding for 1 minute. Perhaps this is Jiraiya-sama mentioned in Counterattack Shinobi biography. The contempt of the people around him will become the source of the protagonist's growth. Kakashi recalled the story of the lowest rankings counterattack in the book, and his originally cold heart calmed down a little. I don't know what this Counterattack Shinobi biography mentioned in this paragraph, but I know that it's not the tale of the utterly gutsy shinobi nor Icha series. Since you ask for it like this, then I have to agree. Soseki chuckled lightly, not caring about the other party's rudeness. Seeing this, the little gamblers got excited again. Wow, it's going to begin soon. Obito leaned close to Rin and asked with serious expression, Rin, what do you think I should bet this time? Before Rin had time to speak, Shunin, who was on the side, shook his head and said, you remember what I said before, right? Before awakening the Sharingan, I didn't even have the ability to resist in front of Soseki. What do you mean by that? Obito asked in confusion. Shunin sighed and looked at Kakashi with sympathy. Let's put it this way, taijutsu is actually Soseki's weakest aspect. Obito was stunned for a moment. He then pointed at the tragic state of the forest and exclaimed, this is the weakest? In the forest, Soseki gently brushed the fallen leaves off his shoulders. Kakashi, are you ready? Kakashi got into offensive stance and said, come. The moment his word fell, the fallen leaves in midair began to dance, raising one after another, attracting Kakashi's attention. Soseki walked slowly and brushed past Kakashi. Sorry, but I'm in a hurry now. As an apology, let me give you a good illusion. After saying that, Soseki walked away, while Kakashi seemed to be distracted, and just standing still. Seeing this, Obito woke up from his sluggishness and asked, what's going on? Is that guy Kakashi asleep? It's a genjutsu, Shunin said with tone full of lament and admiration. This is Soseki's real strength. Amazing. Obito lost his mind for a while, and then became inexplicably excited again. Rin is really very good. She must have deliberately pulled me into the psychology club to attract the attention of the seniors, and then she and I can ask him for genjutsu. Just as Obito fell into a beautiful fantasy once again, there was a sudden burst of cheers around him. Wow, Soseki really too elegant and gentle. It's too much, can't that new student last longer? That's right, I wanted to enjoy Soseki's battle for some time. It's so painful, I seem to have a disease that causes headaches when I can't see Soseki. Well, I seem to be sick too. No, I need to go to the psychology club tomorrow to see Soseki-senpai. Hearing these voices of admiration and worship, Obito's face was bitter. It seems that it will be a little difficult to attract the attention of the seniors. At the Konoha's market. This is our Thunder Fang Fine Iron that has been baptized by thunder and lightning all the year round on the Valley of Clouds and Lightning in our Land of Lightning. It has very good lightning attribute chakra's conductivity. It usually costs 10 million ryo to buy it, but we are now offering a big discount. Quote. The Land of Lightning's top Wagyu beef, it's really beefy. This is our Kumogikure's specialty wine, Lightning Emperor, and Reikage-sama says it's very good. Quote. Reikage says it's very good? Asuma stood in front of a booth. His eyes seemed to be eager to try, and he stretched his neck to smell inside. Go away, you little brats. Do not come to make trouble. The stall owner obviously didn't think that the two children would have the ability to purchase his merchandise. HMPH, even if you give it to me, I don't want it. Asuma used arrogant psychological attack, and turned his head away, pretending to be disgusted. Soseki followed behind him, and his eyes swept across the crowd from time to time. Ha, it's really boring. Asuma's interest did not last long, and he soon lose interest. By the way, Soseki, I see that you've been looking around since the beginning. Is there something you want to buy? It's okay, I'll treat you. Soseki just shook his head lightly at Asuma's rich kid behavior. It's not their goods that interest me, but their eyes. Quote. Asuma's body trembled upon hearing this, and then he lowered his voice and asked, Soseki, are you going to gouge their eyes? Soseki could not help but laugh upon hearing this. I didn't mean that. But, you just said, quote. I mean, something in their eyes. Asuma turned around abruptly, and stared into an adult's eyes for a long time, until he noticed it, and then turned back excitedly and said, I saw it, there's eye boogers, he must have not washed his face in the morning. Hearing this, Soseki did not know whether to cry or laugh. Well, that is indeed something in their eyes, but what I really care about is the real emotions that their eyes can convey. Before Asuma could speak, Soseki continued, I learned about this when I was still in the hospital as many adults like to wear masks on their faces. Asuma asked suspiciously, mask? A disguise to hide your true thoughts, that is a mask. I understand, just like that old fogey obviously liked to watch women taking a bath, but refused to go directly to the bathhouse to see, but hides at home and peeps. Quote. Cough cough. 39 Chapter 38 The one standing in front of you now is. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. In order to prevent Asuma from making any more shocking remarks, Soseki hurriedly continued the previous topic. However, only the eyes won't be covered by the mask. Asuma nodded thoughtfully, and then stared straight at Soseki. Soseki, guess what I'm thinking about now? Soseki looked back calmly, seeing Asuma feeling dazed at this moment. You didn't think about anything. Now, you should be telling yourself not to think about anything. Asuma's eyes widened upon hearing this. That's amazing, isn't this just mind reading? Soseki gently shook his head and said, it's not that miraculous. It's just because I'm very familiar with your character. If it's a stranger, even I with the help of their eyes, expressions, and body movements, I can only analyze some details at most. That's already very amazing. Asuma rubbed his hands together and said in a friendly manner, Soseki, can you teach me this? Of course, after all, I was going to bring it up in the psychology club. Huh? I thought your psychology club is just to listen. Since it is the psychology club, we must first understand everyone's true thoughts. Soseki smiled slightly. He didn't mind letting psychology take root in this world. On one hand, the characteristics of psychology itself are destined. There are many people who are interested, but only very few people are really willing to go deeper. On the other hand, what he is going to talk about is mainly microexpression analysis. This is not only useless for people who can control their own microexpression well, but they can also deliberately let the others interpret the real thoughts they want to convey. After listening to Soseki's brief explanation, Asuma felt that he could already master it. Isn't it enough to have eyes to analyze things like psychology? Who can I find to practice with? Asuma muttered to himself, and then his eyes lit up, and he swaggered towards a certain direction. Why are you here again, little brat? Seeing Asuma standing in front of the stall with his head and chest held high, the stall owner who sold the liquor was annoyed. Asuma folded his arms and decided to use the snap people method Soseki taught him. You are selling fake wine. The stall owner was startled first, and immediately said angrily, are you little brat looking for a fight? He didn't look elsewhere, which means he has no guilty conscience. Too bad I failed this first time. Although Asuma was depressed, he doesn't care about the other party's attitude. Seeing that the other party was about to get angry, Soseki stepped forward and said, although the wine is not fake, it should be blended many times, right? Hearing this, the stall owner said confidently, you little bastards don't understand, the wine was meant to be blended. But, the taste of the wine is so weak, are you sure it is not? Reikage says it's very good after drinking it. The stall owner's expression stiffened, and Asuma, who was next to him, moved beside Soseki and shouted, looking to the side, he really has a guilty conscience. Hearing him shout like this, the stall owner said angrily, what do you know? Reikage-sama is wrong, why should I explain it to little brats like you? Seeing that the other party was on the verge of going berserk, Soseki calmly pointed to his side, the one standing in front of you now is the son of Hokage, the top genius in Konoha's academy, and also the vice president of the psychology club. The stall owner's raised fist stopped in midair, and his face became very strange. I'm sorry for bothering you. Asuma accepted the title Soseki gave him with peace of mind, and asked, Soseki, are there any more? What else do you want me to say? Soseki looked at him strangely, and then shook his head. I think the mind hunter is very good. This hunter is about to start hunting down those who have fallen into the darkness. Asuma felt good about himself and observed back and forth in the market, looking for the next target. At this moment, Soseki suddenly stopped in front of a shop. Soseki, what are you stopping there for? Asuma tilted his head, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Soseki, wait, don't say anything, let me analyze it. Well, Soseki, when you just stopped, your eyes were paying attention to the sign in front of this store, and your eyebrows furrowed very covertly, indicating that you think there is something wrong with the sign of this store. Saying that, Asuma also looked over. It turned out to be the store. I noticed it when I passed by before. The owner wrote the price on the signboard outside in advance, and the price was set very high. It should be to prevent those of us who can't afford it from entering and disturbing him. After saying that, Asuma looked at Soseki. So, is there any problem? Soseki pondered for a moment and said, at first, I thought about that too, but when I passed by the second time, I found something that wasn't quite right. Is there something wrong? This shop sells the special products of the Land of Lightning. If a Konoha merchant bought it from the Land of Lightning, he should wait for these Land of Lightning's merchants to leave before started selling it. Therefore, this shop is likely to be rented or bought by Land of Lightning's merchants. Asuma seemed to be enlightened, and a flash of inspiration appeared in his mind. The surrounding Kumogakure's merchants all set up their stalls directly. Only this one rented or bought the shop. If he doesn't plan to return to Kumogakure, the best thing to do now is to buy goods and stock it up. But instead of doing this, he set the price very outrageously, as if driving customers away, indicating that this business is probably just his mask. Soseki nodded, although it is not certain, it is indeed quite possible. HMPH, no matter whether he has a problem or not, let this hunter go in and test. Wait, the previous method may not work anymore. If the other party really has a problem, his psychological quality is definitely not comparable to the previous one. What shall we do then? Of course, make them show their own flaws. So, this time, Asuma, you need to show your true colors. After discussing for a while, accompanied by an extremely arrogant voice, the two actors officially debuted. Boss. Here. The boss ran out cheerfully, and was stunned when he saw the two little kids standing at the door, but he quickly regained his composure and asked, kids, what are you doing here? Well, the strength of this boss is really strong. Asuma, who has already identified the other party as a bad guy, secretly evaluated the other party's acting skills. Of course we are here to buy things. Are you saying that we would come to see you for a bath? Cough. The boss looked puzzled, but said in a gentle tone, kids, the things I have here are very expensive. You should go to other places to play. Asuma did not speak, and just raised his head and pointed his nostril at the owner. At this moment, Soseki stepped forward. The one standing in front of you now is the son of Hokage, the looter, the future heir of Sarutobi clan, and a strong candidate for Konoha's Academy's second year's class leader. Chapter 39 Spy. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. And 2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto. Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Son of Hokage. The shop's boss pupil shrank violently, wondering the authenticity of the other party's words, and a look of honor appeared on his face. It turned out to be Hokage-sama's son. I was really rude before. Although this guy's reaction just now was a little bit strange, it is normal to be shocked when he hears my famous title. Then, let's act according to the original plan. Asuma nodded complacently, and a came from his nostrils. Is he really Hokage's son? Although he was puzzled, he still did not dare to test and took the initiative to defend himself. I am Kuki, a businessman from the land of lightning. Because this is the first time I have come to Konoha, I don't know the identities of the two guests. I'm really sorry. I don't care where you came from. Asuma waved his hand impatiently. I am here mainly for the second year's class leader campaign. I plan to buy some fresh top quality beef from you to buy off my classmates. Even 5 or 6-year-old children know to buy their classmates. Has Konoha already corrupted to such level? Kuki felt contemptuous, but he still asked cheerfully, how many kilos of beef are you going to buy? No hurry, I'll take a look first. Asuma gave an expression of, I'm an expert. Kuki just smiled and follows the other party. However, 10 minutes passed, half an hour passed, and an hour has passed. Kuki's mentality is a little broken after this long. Why is this little brat still picking and choosing? Can't he make up his mind already? Damn it, there is still that action at night. Kuki screamed frantically in his heart, took a deep breath, and forced a happy smile. Hokage-sama may already be preparing dinner. Why don't you try to choose it again tomorrow? Asuma gave him a blank look. Fool, the class leader election will be finished tomorrow. What's the use of this beef then? Kuki roared in his heart. How could I know when you stupid kids held your class leader election? Finally, after lingering for another half an hour, Asuma slapped a piece of beef with disgust. Just this piece. Kuki almost cried bitterly, as he finally being able to send away this annoying little devil. Seemingly worried that Asuma would going back to search again, Kuki hurriedly said, I will wrap it up for you. Wait, I haven't finished yet. Why are you being so impatient in business? Kuki stiffened and laughed awkwardly. Ha, ha ha, I'm not impatient. Asuma nodded calmly and then said lightly, I want you to cut 5 kilograms of lean meat, and there must not be any fat at all, understand? Kuki breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. This is fine. After a period of sharp knife work, Kuki happily wrapped the meat. Then I will. It's not over yet. I still need 5 kilograms of this fat meat here. I can't just have the lean ones, you know? Anger welled up in Kuki's heart, and he almost grabbed his knife and chopped someone directly. The world is so beautiful, but I'm becoming so irritable, it's not good. Taking a deep breath, Kuki forced a smile and said, okay, I'll cut it now. Hearing these bitter words, even Soseki, who was watching the play, was almost moved. Seeing that the moonlight had already climbed onto the cutting board, Kuki cried silently in his heart, I finally finished it. Seeing Kuki wrap the fat meat, and give it to them as he looked at them with that numb gaze, Asuma almost couldn't bear to continue, and then. By the way, I need another 5 kilograms of bones. I just remembered that Inuzuka's dogs like to eat bones the most. Quote. Oh, Kuki replied mechanically, like a salted fish that had lost his dream. However, the moment he lowered his head to continue cutting, the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed, and the veins in the palm that is holding the machete also burst out. Have I been exposed? No, if I was exposed, it won't be 2 little brats who come here. Let's just bear with it a little longer. At least, I can't be the one who take the initiative to expose it. Next, there was another long silence. What followed was another long silence. 2 little guests, do you have any more requests? Kuki bent down, looking very flattering, but in fact, he is like a tiger or leopard staring at its prey, and seems ready to do something. But at this moment, Asuma's small muttering came from in front of him. It's really disappointing if you don't get angry like this. Isn't it said that you Kumogakure's people are the most hot-tempered? Kuki was taken aback, and felt something strange. Before he could come up with something, Asuma continued, HMPH. Nighting Hokage-sama died in the hands of Yukumo Gakure. I must avenge him. Who, it turned out to be because of this. Kuki only felt his palms are hot and humid, and he was already soaked with sweat. Hearing this, he hurriedly explained, we Kumo Gakure are also the victims of that coup d'etat. Even Nighting Reikage-sama was killed by the Gold and Silver brothers. HMPH, but those 2 bastards are always your Kumo Gakure's people. Then, Asuma walked out with a displeased expression. You were lucky this time. But, I will come again next time. As he didn't have enough cash, they quickly retreat. Although Asuma did not pay or take away the beef, Kuki was thankful that he left and naturally did not dare to cause more troubles. Ha, it's finally over. Kuki rubbed his wrists and the corners of his mouth twitched as he looked at the beef on the table. I hate little brats the most, especially those from Konoha. After walking a distance from the shop, Asuma whispered excitedly, there is definitely something wrong with that guy. Soseki nodded, and it's probably a big problem. Then, we'll leave it to the adults to deal with it. Asuma's excited expression stagnated, and then he said with a smile, it's better not to trouble the adults with this kind of uncertainty, right? Soseki showed a hint of surprise at the right time. You want to follow them alone? No, there is also you. No, it's too dangerous. There won't be any danger. Asuma showed a rare serious expression. Our Konoha is protected by a barrier. If a powerful outsider shinobi comes in, that old fogey and the others will receive the news immediately. Therefore, the one involved in this operation should be just the escort shinobi of the caravan. That's still very dangerous. After all, we don't even count as shinobi. Shinobi cannot be generalized. Asuma said disdainfully, for genius like us, it will be very easy to deal with ordinary genin, and Kumogakure must be reluctant to let the geniuses of his village to participate in this kind of dangerous mission. What if they have Chunin? In the case of Chunin, even if we can't beat them, we should have no problem protecting ourselves. Moreover, this is Konoha, so the other party will definitely give up after they find that they can't catch us. Seeing that Soseki was still hesitating, Asuma added, if they act tonight, then it'll be too late for us to inform the adults now. Upon hearing this, Soseki looked solemn and nodded, okay, but if they don't act tonight, then we must notify the village tomorrow. Seeing Soseki being persuaded by himself, Asuma waved his fist in excitement, great, the anti-spy team is ready to act. Soseki sighed softly, as if he was apologizing for his foolishness, but a strange light flashed in his eyes. Well, I will be dealing with sensitive people this time, so I can only apologize to you, Asuma, as you will take the blame for me. Chapter 40 Nothing But Being Handsome. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Under the dim night, several sneaky figures gathered together. Kuki, what's the matter with you? Why are you so late and someone is there with you? That's right, it caused us to temporarily change the contact location. Hearing the complaints of his companions, Cookie's nose was sore, and he was almost on the verge of tears. After being played around by the two little brats for a long time, he almost changed his job from a shinobi to a chef. After the two little brats left, he found the secret message left by his companions from the back door of the shop. So, he rushed all the way to the new contact location, and didn't even have time to eat anything. Trying to calm down the restlessness in his heart, Cookie explained, sorry, I didn't expect to be entangled by two troublesome little brats. Entangled? The others were taken aback and asked quickly, you were discovered? No way, Cookie waved his hand, if I was exposed, a lot of Konoha's Anbu would jump out now and grab us. MMFFTT, what are you doing? Don't talk nonsense. One of them released his right hand covering Cookie's mouth and glared at him fiercely. I used to have a companion, and every time he said something similar, it came true. The corners of Cookie's mouth twitched, and he whispered, how is this kind of thing even possible? It's not shinobific at all. Okay, the leader of this group stopped them, and then asked, what happened? There are two little brats from Konoha who want to provoke me on purpose, so as to attract the shinobi's inspection. Seeing that the others' expressions changed drastically, Cookie quickly explained, don't get me wrong, those two little brats don't know who I am. They did it just to provoke conflicts and avenge Nidame Hokage. Hearing this, the others laughed and said, I didn't expect that even when Konoha's higher-ups are all coward, there are a few hardliners among those little brats. Cookie also laughed and said, haha, one of the little brats also claims to be the son of Sandame Hokage. Huh? Why aren't you laughing? Seeing that the smiles on the faces of the others suddenly disappeared, Cookie was puzzled at first, but he soon woke up and regretted it. I understand, I should have caught that little brat directly at the time. After all, that little brat is obviously worth more than the target. Idiot, the leader scolded in a low voice. Haven't you heard that the Sandame Hokage like to use the telescope technique to peep? Cookie stared wide-eyed upon hearing this, peep? The shinobi next to him replied, what Hyakumisama meant is that Konoha's Sandame Hokage is a person with a very strong desire for control, so this technique was specially developed for monitoring. Cookie was surprised and said, what should we do then? It's fortunate that you idiot didn't do it, otherwise we'll be finished now. The leader asked with suppressed anger, quickly recall it. Did you show any flaws before? Quote. Should not. The more Cookie recalled, the less confident he became. Should not? At this time, the shinobi on the side asked a question. Wait, as the son of Hokage didn't even come back for dinner, wouldn't Sandame Hokage send someone out to find him? The leader pondered for a moment, and then suddenly asked, you mentioned earlier that there are two Konoha's little brats, who is the other one? Quote. Cookie pondered for a while, and felt that kid has no sense of existence other than being hands, I don't know, except for being handsome. However, the leader was overjoyed upon hearing this. I see, that little brat must be Shimizu Soseki whom I have found out about the past few days. I heard that Sandame Hokage is very optimistic about him. Maybe when Sandame Hokage used telescope technique, he found that the two of them were staying together, so he is not worried and didn't continue to watch after them. Is that so? Cookie was very confused. He is obviously with no good point besides being handsome. Could it be that Konoha has fallen to the point of choosing people based on looks? Captain, what should we do now? The leader pondered for a moment, then exhaled heavily. Well, the risk of our exposure has greatly increased now, so we must take action tonight. Quote. Fearing that they would be discovered, Soseki and Asuma were tracking from a very long distance, but the flaw of this method was that they could not hear the other party's conversation. Ha tilde, why haven't they acted yet? Could it be that they fell asleep? Asuma yawned and whispered, Soseki, why don't we get closer? Quote. Soseki shook his head slightly and said, the strength of these shinobi may not be stronger than ours, but their experience of performing missions is definitely better than ours. If we get closer, the risk of being discovered is too great. Okay, Asuma sighed helplessly, and then clenched his fists fiercely. When I catch these bastards, I must let them know the fate of making me miss my sleep. Quote. They're out. Quote. What is coming out? They are finally going to act. Soseki nodded and whispered, prepare to follow them. They are far away from the enemy, so although it is safe, they may lose their target if they are not careful. So, the two did not dare to be distracted at all, and when they saw the enemy move, they quickly followed. After following for a while, Asuma exclaimed softly, huh, in that direction? Quote. Soseki feigned ignorance and asked, is there a problem? Except a very fierce big sister living there are no other people living in that direction. Asuma said, and then asked, Soseki, do you know Land of Whirlpools? Soseki nodded and replied while jumping and following, the Land of Whirlpools was originally a friendly ally of our Konoha, but it was destroyed by war a few years ago. Quote. Well, this big sister is the survivor of the Land of Whirlpools. Asuma said the truth, he knew. In order to protect the orphan of Land of Whirlpools, that old fogey and the others let that big sister settle down in the village. And because of being an outsider, she doesn't seem to have a good relationship with the rest of the village. Quote. However, why did these Kumogakure shinobi try to catch her? When Soseki heard this, he almost burst into laughter. According to the memory of his previous life, only Sandame and a few elders knew about the fact that Uzumaki Kushina became Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, and the others didn't know, not even the Sanin. This also led to a very awkward situation. If they send someone to monitor her, the spies from other villages will definitely find something wrong. But if they don't send someone to monitor her, it is impossible for them to keep an eye on her all the time. In the end, they can only choose to believe in Konoha's security protection. On the other hand, Kumogakure has never thought of capturing Kyuubi at all. Otherwise, it would not be these weaklings they sent out. They are really only interested in the other party's special chakra, but who knows, they would catch a super big fish. According to the setting of the original work, this incident occurred 27 years before the end of Fourth Shinobi World War. As the event happened can be said to happen between the end of year 41 to the beginning of year 42, I have made some mistake as it should have happened at the end of the previous year, but I forgot it and inexplicably changed it to the start of the second year. Another thing is that people often think that this plot happened during Namikaze Minato's academy years, because the first part of this episode happened to be the part of Kushina just joined the academy, but in fact, when Namikaze Minato saved Kushina like a hero, both of them already wore the Konoha's forehead protector and graduated. Chapter 41, Getting the favorability of two people at the same time. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. While they're still speaking, the group of Kumogakure shinobi has rushed into Uzumaki Kushina's house. Soseki showed grave expression. Damn, we can't catch up. Haha, don't worry. Asuma showing an expression of taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Those Kumogakure shinobi are miserable. I heard that old fogey say that the strength of that big sister is super. Before he could finish speaking, he saw a few black-clothed shinobi walking out with a red-haired girl. Asuma. Feeling Soseki's strange gaze, Asuma quickly explained, I see, this must be a deliberate disguise by the red-haired big sister. She must want to follow this line and catch all of the spies at once. Soseki shook his head slightly. If he guessed correctly, most of the current Uzumaki Kushina's strength should be used to suppress the Kyuubi. After all, Uzumaki Mito was too old when she transferred the seal, and although the strength Sandaime and the others are strong, their mastery in Fuinjutsu still can't compare to the Uzumaki clan. The most important thing is that the one sealed in Uzumaki Kushina is a complete Kyuubi, which makes the strength of the seal in Uzumaki Kushina's body not even comparable to that of the future Naruto. In order to prevent Kyuubi from breaking through the seal, Uzumaki Kushina did not dare to use chakra at all, so that she did not dare to resist when she was caught by these weakling trash shinobi. It can be said that those Kumogakure shinobi are on the verge of death without even realizing it. So, in this world, good people are always easy to be bullied. So Seki sighed in his heart, and Asuma, who was beside him, also realized that something was wrong. The big sister fell down several times in the middle, and was dragged by those Kumogakure shinobi roughly on the ground with a rope. Even if you want to act, you don't need to work so hard, right? Not good, so Seki, that big sister may have really been caught. Let's hurry up and save her now. Wait, don't be impulsive. Don't forget that they have a hostage in their hands now. Thinking of this, Asuma immediately panicked. What should we do? Damn it, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have stayed silent, and just arrest these people directly. Even if I arrest them wrongly, they can scold me at most. Don't blame yourself too much. After all, two countries are involved. Without evidence, the higher-ups will not directly arrest people. But it's too late to go back and find someone now. Soseki said with a calm voice, don't worry, there is still a way. Hearing Soseki's words, Asuma calmed down and asked, tell me, Soseki, what should we do? Soseki narrowed his eyes slightly and said, let's continue to follow them. When they reach Konoha's border, that means they are only one step away from success, and that should be their most relaxed moment. Then, we will cooperate to take back the hostages immediately. Hearing this, Asuma couldn't help but ask, but what if they didn't relax? Quote. Soseki helplessly said, in that case, I can only try to shock their spirits with genjutsu. Although I am very confident in my genjutsu, the enemy is a shinobi after all, so I am not sure whether it will succeed. It must succeed, Asuma said depressedly. I haven't returned even after so late. Can't that old fogey hurry up and peep at me? Damn it, he must be trying to peek at others while I'm not at home. Unlike Asuma, who was deeply worried, Soseki didn't even look worried from the very beginning. Everything at the moment was within his expectations, even though the other protagonist of this show has not yet appeared yet. For a thing like favorability, it's better to get it from two people at once than just one person, so don't let me down, Namikaze Minato-senpai. Comparison to Namikaze Minato, Soseki actually values Uzumaki Kushina as Fuinjutsu more, but Namikaze Minato also has the potential to develop into an excellent toolman. Therefore, Soseki naturally didn't want to miss such an opportunity to get their favorability at once. If Namikaze Minato takes action, I don't have to work hard. I just need to find the right time to gain what I wanted, but what if he didn't arrive in time like in the original plot? Soseki did not believe that the river of fate would be like a stagnant pool of water that would not be able to stir up even the slightest waves. Too much faith in the future he knew would only put him in a passive and disadvantageous position. So, even if he participated in this known future, he is still fully prepared. Before deliberately guiding Asuma, he has already figured out the other party's intention and strength in advance. After all, I have never said that an ordinary chunin is beyond my scope. As a genius, it is reasonable to break through in battle, right? Under the cover of the night, the two followed the Kumogakure shinobi closely. Asuma picked up a handful of soft red hair from the ground and said with a complicated complexion, Soseki, are these people really shinobi? That big sister removed her hair to create a trail. Moreover, her red hair was as striking as fire in the dark, but this group of shinobi didn't even notice a single thing. At first, he was also worried that this is Kumogakure shinobi trying to lure them to show up, but now it seems that this group of shinobi is really weak. Soseki just stayed silent as he was also in disbelief as these Kumogakure shinobi are really careless. After discovering this, Asuma asked eagerly, Soseki, shall we get closer? Soseki was about to answer, but the chakra fluctuations in the distance caused him to lose his focus for a moment. It was the chakra he had attached to Uzumaki Kushina's hair. Although he is not a specialized sensor shinobi, but in this case, if someone picks up the hair that fell on the ground, he can still perceive the fluctuation of chakra. Namikaze Minato, it seems that we must hurry up and act, otherwise, when he arrives, I will have nothing to do here. Thinking of this, Soseki no longer hesitated. Of course we have to get closer, and we also have to take the opportunity to launch a surprise attack. Hearing this, Asuma's eyes widened. But didn't you say before that we have to wait for them to get close to Konoha's border? Soseki showed grave expression, and said solemnly, I overlooked an important detail before. These Kumogakure shinobi may have arranged for manpower outside the barrier in advance. If a battle breaks out at the border, the Kumogakure shinobi outside the barrier might notice and rush into the barrier desperately. At that time, it would be too late for the adults in the village to receive the news. So, it's better for us to choose to attack where they are closer to the border, but the combat situation can't be noticed by the people outside the barrier. I understand. Asuma suddenly nodded in realization and praised. As expected of Soseki, you really thought it through. Well, wait for you to see complete my hand seals. Once I finish the hand seals, we will immediately grab that big sister back. Understood. Chapter 42 Kushina. I found my little brother. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/calming translation. There are advanced chapters there. With time passed, the border mark gradually emerged, and Kumogakure shinobi, who had been worried, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Ha, tonight is really dangerous. Yeah, but fortunately, there was no danger. When I get back to the village, I must be drunk with her for a day and a night. Seeing this, Kuki also spoke. I already said it is impossible that we are exposed. Look, there's not even a chaser, right? The shinobi who covered his mouth before said angrily, I told you not to say such things. But before he could finish speaking, his eyes lost their luster. Before anyone could react, Uzumaki Kushina was held by Asuma and he then threw her away. And Soseki took advantage of this gap and threw his shuriken, cutting the rope that bound Kushina's hands with great precision. I didn't expect that someone would really come to rescue me. Kushina fell to the ground, and the sudden pain stimulated her to return to her sense. Although she had been working hard to left trails before, in fact, she did not think that someone would come to save her because she is just an outsider. But unexpectedly, the fantasy turned into reality. Looking up, two little boys entered her line of sight. Did these two children save me? At this time, Kumogakure shinobi also returned to their sense one after another. It turned out to be a genjutsu. After noticing what happened, the leader felt chills in his heart, and was also frightened for a while. Fortunately, the other party chose to save the target first, otherwise, this time I really wouldn't even know how I die. Kuki woke up with a dazed expression. After seeing the two attackers, he shouted in disbelief, It's you two little brats. Listening to him shouting like this, the others quickly calmed down and looked towards the surroundings, and then felt ecstatic in their hearts. Only these two little brats? Where's Konoha's Anbu? Kushina also reacted and asked in a jerky tone, Is it just the two of you? But soon, she ridiculed herself. That's right, only a child like you who wouldn't mind saving a disgusting outsider like me. How can a kind person be disgusting? Soseki, who was giving Kushina a temporary treatment, said softly. Kind? Kushina was dumbfounded, as it was the first time she heard someone praise her like that. Soseki nodded and said, when I was treating you, I found out that you have a very terrifying power in your body. If it wasn't for suppressing this power, you should be able to defeat them easily. In order to not threaten the people around you, you would rather be hurt by others. Such a person must be very kind. Hearing this, Kushina's nose was sore that she almost shed tears. When she was a child, she has experienced the destruction of her homeland, bullied by her classmates, and discrimination from the others. She was even brought to Konoha as a container, so this is the first time she has received such recognition. In this split second, she made a firm resolution. I found my little brother. Seeing that Soseki and their mission target were chatting like they're not here, the Kumogakure shinobi felt that they have been seriously insulted. With new hatred added with the old hatred, Kuki rubbed his wrist and said with a malicious smile, you two annoying little brats have finally fallen into my hands. Kushina returned to her sense and stood in front of Soseki protectively. Aren't you trying to catch me? I won't resist, but you must let them go. At this moment, Kuki said agitatedly, Captain, that brat is Sandame Hokage's son. Now that we are on the border, we don't have to worry about Konoha's revenge anymore. Hearing what Kuki said, Kushina also looked in surprise. He is old man Sarutobi's son. The leader seemed a little tangled. If he really caught the son of Sandame Hokage, wouldn't it cause the Third Shinobi World War to happen? How could he, a small fry chunin, make such a decision that might change the situation of the shinobi world? After taking a few deep breaths, the madness in Kumogakure shinobi's bones finally affected him. Let's do it. Hearing this, the other Kumogakure shinobi shouted excitedly. After all, this is Sandame Hokage's son, and he definitely worth more than that of Uzumaki clan's orphan. Asuma was confused and didn't say a word. Why did they suddenly target me? However, he was not afraid, and even got excited. HMPH. It's still too early for you trash shinobi to deal with this Asuma-sama. Soseki, let us show these guys our strength. Is his name Soseki? Kushina looked towards Soseki with concern, and her eyes are full of worry. At this moment, several Kumogakure shinobi have already rushed up. In their opinion, how powerful can two little brats be? So they just felt that they need to be careful with the previous genjutsu. On the other side, Soseki and Asuma also acted in tacit cooperation. Soseki quickly formed hand seals with both hands, while Asuma threw all of his shuriken at once. Why are there so many shuriken? Damn, this little brat is so rich. The Kumogakure shinobi are depressed when they saw this. Although their opponent's throwing technique is very amateurish, the number of the shuriken is not low, so they can't ignore it with their strength. Ding, ding. Amidst a series of metal collisions, the shuriken quickly fell to the ground, but that was enough. Genjutsu, sly mind effect technique. Huh? Where are the others? The leader suddenly realized that a cliff appeared in front of him inexplicably, which made him stop instantly. But at this moment, the instincts that has been nurtured in his years of shinobi's life made him feel alarmed. Genjutsu, Kai. After forcibly disrupting the flow of chakra in his body, the leader finally wakes up. Then, he feels a hot wind blowing into my face. The leader took a closer look and saw a huge fireball crackling all the way towards him. Damn, before he could scold more, the leader hurriedly rolled aside. Pooey. After spitting out a mouthful of grass, the leader that was covered in dirt was a little stunned when he saw the scorched black marks on the ground. Isn't great fireball technique a chunin level ninjutsu? How could a 6 or 7-year-old kid be so proficient at using it? No, there is also C-rank genjutsu, sly mind effect technique. The leader glanced at his companions who seemed to be moving around like headless flies, and cursed again in his heart. The other brat is a monster among monsters. He was even able to use this genjutsu in such scale that everyone was caught in it. If all of Konoha's shinobi are such monsters, how did we, Kumogakure, persist for several years before losing the war? Even Kushina was secretly shocked. This little brother who she unilaterally adopts seems to be a little too strong. At least, at Soseki's age, she definitely didn't have that kind of strength. Why not kill the enemy first? Reason 1. Unless all the enemies are killed in an instant, the hostage will still be in danger. Reason 2. Soseki is here to gain favorability, so the first priority is naturally to make the other party feel that Soseki attaches importance to her. Chapter 43 Fighting a Chunin. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/10238196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. This guy actually woke up at the last minute. Asuma smacked his lips with a look of regret. Then, let's kill the others first. Soseki took out shuriken from his ninja bag. I'm in charge of the left. Then I'm on the right. The leader frowned and shouted loudly, wake up. If he can disrupt the flow of chakra in his body by himself, it is possible for him to help his companions. However, the problem is that he can only save one person at a time. Therefore, he can only hope that his voice can wake them up. However, it didn't work at all. Seeing a massive vacuum sphere flying to the left, and a shuriken shooting to the right, the leader gritted his teeth and could only try to use his shuriken to shoot down the opponent's shuriken, while running wildly to the left, pushing his companions away before the vacuum sphere hit. Fortunately I caught up. But before he could take a breath, Soseki and Asuma has launched another attack. Arg, damn brats, wait for me. You attack again? Are you pigs? Wake up. After tossing back and forth like this for 3 times, no matter how slow-witted he is, the leader realized that something was wrong. Every time the other party attacked, they seemed to leave a gap just right, controlling the timing slightly, so that he would not lose hope of saving his companions at all. No, these 2 little brats did it on purpose. The leader felt a chill in his heart. These 2 little brats deliberately left some hope, making him tired of running around, and then he would be easily defeated due to exhaustion. Kushina was also surprised. No one has woken up even after so long. It is impossible for the normal sly mind effect technique to have such an effect. It seems that my little brother is really amazing. Seeing that the 2 little brats launched another attack, the leader roared angrily and rushed towards them with bloodshot eyes. Damn little brats, I will kill you. Being forced to give up his companions by 2 little brats made him feel ashamed and furious at the same time. It seems that we made him too furious. Having said that, Asuma's voice was filled with fear, but instead full of excitement. I wonder how strong a chunin level opponent will be. Asuma was looking forward to the fight, and at this moment, a dazzling lightning burst out of the opponent's hands. Lightning release, lightning wolves. The lightning turned into a pack of hungry wolves, and rushed towards Asuma as they opened their mouths wide. So fast, Asuma was shocked. The speed of the other party's lightning release seemed to be much faster than the one he had seen in the village before. As expected of a shinobi from Kumogakure, Asuma also quickly formed hand seals, and spit out rounds of flames from his mouth that flew towards the wolves. Lightning and fire clashed, and a dazzling brilliance suddenly bloomed in the forest at night. In the aftermath of this collision, the leader violently broke through the lightning and fire remains and rushed towards Asuma. Seeing the charred enemy rushing towards him, Asuma's pupils shrank violently. He obviously didn't expect the opponent to be so determined, but thanks to his many battles with Soseki, he is no stranger to this kind of violent offensive. Using body replacement technique, he dodged in time. The Kumogakure shinobi who has entered the violent state was naturally not satisfied with this result. He kicked the big tree in front of him with his legs and threw himself at Asuma again with a recoil. I have to say, have you forgotten something? Mountain storm. Soseki's voice appears timely, and then he punched the Kumogakure shinobi who was in midair. Boom. Like a cannonball, the Kumogakure shinobi was blown away, plowing a long ravine in the ground. Sure enough, Soseki is indeed more ferocious, Asuma muttered, and then asked, was that guy directly punched to death? On the side, Kushina nodded in relief upon seeing this, as expected of my little brother, whom she unilaterally adopts. He has the same violent power like me under his kind heart. What kind of monsters are these rots? The horrified voice of Kumogakure shinobi came out of the dust cloud. At this moment, he was looking at the shards in his chest with horror. If it weren't for this armor, he would have been directly killed this time. No, even with this armor as a buffer, he was almost killed by that punch. However, I won't give you another chance. I will let you know that Chunin is not something that brats like you, who are not even genin, can handle with. But you were almost killed by us. That was my carelessness. But you were almost killed by us. Bastard, 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 the leader roared and rushed straight towards Asuma. However, Asuma just quickly formed hand seals with both hands, and didn't even try to dodge at all. Seeing the situation, the leader subconscious thought of a possibility, but before he could react, the familiar frogging appeared again. Genjutsu again? I'll break through it by force. The leader knew that he couldn't waste time, so he barely managed to control his left hand to squeeze hard, and the shuriken hidden in his left palm pierced into his flesh. The intense pain struck, and he finally broke free from the genjutsu. Then, a raging heat wave came. With the previous experience, the leader hurriedly rolled away, but the fireball still managed to hit half of his body. Damn, for me to be pushed to such a degree. The leader held his left hand, and looked at Soseki's eyes. He would never imagine that he, a Chunin, couldn't even deal with two little brats. If he just need to deal with one person alone, he will not be in such difficult situation. But the cooperation of the two little brats on the opposite side is really good, and his group of useless teammates can't wake up again. Soseki's expression was neither sad nor happy, but he sighed inwardly, as expected of a fire release, it won't burn people to death. No, I can't win this battle unless that brat who uses genjutsu is dealt with first. Thinking of this, the leader clenched his teeth and rushed towards Asuma again. Asuma and Soseki did not suspect him, and subconsciously began to form hand seals. 3, 2, 1, now. The leader's eyes flashed, as he managed to predict the activation time of Soseki's genjutsu in advance. The moment before he was caught by the genjutsu, he squeezed the smoke bomb in his hand without the slightest hesitation. Damn, I can't see where the enemy is, Asuma secretly thought, but now that his hand seals have been completed, he can only bet on his luck. The huge fireball went all the way, and finally rushed into the smoke. With the sound of roaring and cracking, the raised dust and smoke enveloped most of the battlefield. Just as Asuma was being careful to guard against the opponent's actions, suddenly, a jet-black figure rushed out of the smoke. He is so dark that he almost merged with the night. And his target is Uzumaki Kushina. Bastard, stop right there. Upon seeing this, Asuma subconscious grabbed a shuriken and threw it at the opponent. Damn, it's too late to form hand seals. Soseki pretended to be panicked and shouted, but he silently thought in his heart, that idiot didn't forget to look at me from the corner of his eye while he was running. Is he afraid that I won't know his intentions? Being deceived by such a poor performance is really an insult to my IQ, but it can also be explained as carelessness. Thinking of this, Soseki took the initiative to give a good show. Chapter 44 Rampage. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Seeing that Soseki running wildly to stop him, the leader shinobi overjoyed. Hee, what genius. You're just an inexperienced rookie who was fooled by my trick. In the front, Kushina in place as if she was frightened, with a struggling and painful look on her face. It was because of a certain big dog inside her body who wanted to take the opportunity to break through the seal. Do you want my strength? Just a little. No, as long as you let go of your restraints, it is not difficult to defeat them with your strength. No, no. Why resist your own heart? You obviously hate those who bully and humiliate you. I don't like them, however, I will hate myself to release the devil even more. Moreover, the village is not only composed of people who hate me. The leader didn't know why the little girl in front of him didn't run away, but he wasn't interested in knowing either. After all, his fish has already been hooked. Get away from her. Aha, I'm waiting for you. The moment the leader was about to throw his fist at Kushina, he suddenly turned around, and the rays of lightning on his right fist hit Soseki, who could not dodge it. Soseki was blown away heavily, and the blood he spat out formed a crystal chain of blood red beads in midair. Soseki, Asuma yelled in pain and rushed towards the enemy with bloodshot eyes. Bastard, I will definitely kill you. Ha 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 ha, stop talking big, just rely on your fire escape which can't kill. The leader laughed heartily. Kushina, who was struggling in pain, was awakened by the harsh laughter, and only then she realized that her face was stained with warm blood. This is Soseki's blood, to protect me? In the depths of her pupils, a black mist quietly emerged. On the other hand, Asuma has lost his mind, and he even forgot to use ninjutsu, as he just grabbed the kunai and rushed towards the enemy. The son of Hokage is only at this level? The leader easily grabbed Asuma's wrist and sneered. Considering Asuma's identity, he did not dare to go too far. At this time, Asuma also calmed down from the impulse, and staring wide-eyed as he looked behind the other party in disbelief. Huh? You mean to say that there is an enemy behind me? Idiot, I already did such trick more than 10 years ago. Just as the leader mocked coldly, a voice that seemed to come from hell sounded faintly behind him. I'm going to kill you, bastard. The leader looked back stiffly, only to see a monster covered in blood and mist staring at him. The weird and ominous chakra seems to be able to awaken the deepest fear in the human's heart. Sarutobi clan's residence. With critical gaze, Sandaime Hokage, who was watching the content emerging from the crystal ball, suddenly stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the scarlet blood mist that almost tore through the night in the distance with eyes full of worry and heaviness. What the hell is going on? Why does the Kyuubi's chakra erupt in that direction? Thinking of this, he quickly walked back to the table. With a flick of his right hand, the picture on the crystal ball began to change. In the next moment, Kushina, who was covered with layer of blood mist, appeared in front of him, and at the same time, there was also Kumogakure shinobi who was paralyzed on the ground in fright. Damn, those Kumogakure actually dare, Sandaime said angrily, and then his eyes widened abruptly, as he actually saw Asuma's figure in the corner of the crystal ball. Wait, what the hell is going on? Root, in an underground dark room. A shinobi wearing an Iwagakure's forehead protector is looking at the old man in front of him in horror. What are you doing? No, don't come here. Stop struggling, just obediently let this old man give you an injection. What is that, poison? HMPH, isn't this what Onoki asked you to sneak into Konoha for? Hearing what he said, even if he was in a prison, the Iwagakure spy's eyes still couldn't help but show a look of desire. This is Shoden Hokage's. Danzo took advantage of the present moment to pierce the spy with a needle. Arg, the Iwagakure spy screamed in pain, but in an instant, his body was swallowed by trees. One more material is missing. Danzo frowned, but the next moment, he hurriedly looked towards a certain direction. This evil and ominous chakra fluctuation, it's Kyuubi. Thinking of this, the shadows in Danzo's eyes almost swayed. It's a serious breach of duty to let the Kyuubi break through the seal. Hiruzen, you are too incompetent as Hokage. Meanwhile, at Konoha's border, Soseki got up from a hole in the distance, and the corners of his eyes jumped wildly at the scene in front of him. I originally thought that as someone from the Uzumaki clan, she should be able to easily sense my condition. Soseki sighed in his heart. Fortunately, the situation now is not too bad. If her tails come out, then it will be very dangerous. Thinking of this, Soseki struggled to crawl out of the hole. Big sister, please stop, I'm fine. Quote. Kushina, who was in a state of rampaging, calmed down after hearing Soseki's voice, and the blood mist on her body began to dissipate. In the distance, Asuma, who seemed to be frightened, finally recovered after hearing Soseki's voice. Soseki, it's great that you're okay. As for the Kumogakure shinobi, he could no longer hear Soseki's voice. As he was targeted by Kyuubi's chakra directly, he was scared to death. This level is far from enough. Soseki frowned slightly. He naturally doesn't care about that Kumogakure shinobi, but he found that the layer of blood mist on Kushina's body only dissipated to a certain extent before it stabilized. At this time, Asuma ran all the way, leaned into Soseki's ear and asked anxiously, Soseki, what's wrong with this big sister? It may be the Biju mentioned in the book. Really? Then, this big sister is a Jinchuriki? How pitiful. Soseki shook his head slightly, and shouted loudly, kind big sister, you must hold on. You are so kind and brave, so you must not lose to the devil in your heart. With every word Soseki shouted, the layer of blood mist on Kushina's body dissipated. Sure enough, it's really embarrassing. Soseki took a deep breath and looked to the side. Asuma, help me to cheer up the big sister. Asuma, who was watching the show on the side, was dumbfounded, and pointed to himself blankly. It's fun to watch others shout, but it's too shameful if it falls on yourself. But seeing the insistence in Soseki's eyes, Asuma had no choice but to agree. Then, his face turned green before he said, big sister, your form is really ugly. Change back quickly. As soon as the voice fell, the blood mist on Kushina's body snapped up. Seeing this situation, Soseki patted Asuma's shoulder helplessly. Forget it, you should stop talking. If you continue, you will definitely killed. Chapter 45 Namikaze, Love Master, Minato. Published by Web Novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. AN1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. AN2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1038196889. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Just as Soseki shouted till his mouth dry, someone jumped from the tree in a cool pose. Seeing Kushina, whose appearance is obviously wrong, and Soseki who shouts shameful words on the side, Namikaze Minato hurriedly asked, Kushina, what's wrong with you? Also, who are you guys? Big sister was attacked by the monster sealed in her body. Soseki replied, and then asked, Big brother, are you a friend of big sister? A friend? Maybe, right? Minato seemed a little shy. Although he had been paying attention to her secretly since they first met, Kushina was very resistant to everything from the outside, which made the two of them actually haven't even said a few words to each other. That's very good. Soseki was overjoyed. Big sister is now relying on her perseverance to fight against that monster. Big brother, hurry up and say something that will make big sister feel happy and confident. It's better to let big sister remember your bond. Is that so? Hearing that Kushina's situation is so critical, Minato couldn't care about anything else, and he spoke the words that had been buried in his heart for a long time. Because of your beautiful red hair, I noticed you since the first time you came to the academy. At that time, you were because of your red hair. I was very angry and wanted to stand up and help you. However, you who were bullied did not cry weakly, but instead you fought back bravely. From that moment on, I knew that you were strong, both in strength and in heart. I like Kushina like this from the bottom of my heart. Also, today is actually the date when you first came to the academy. I didn't have the courage to ask about your birthday, so I always remember this day in my heart. I was planning to invite you out for a date, but accidentally discovered that you were taken away, and I don't want to lose you. The corner of Soseki's mouth twitched upon hearing Minato's shameful confession. What is this? Rustic love story? Sure enough, as expected of Namikaze Minato, he has his own unique insights in terms of language. However, after Minato's confession was spoken, the ominous blood mist covering Kushina's body almost dissipated completely in an instant. In just a few moments, Kushina changed back her original appearance, and then her body weakened and fell into Minato's arms. Asuma was stunned. Is this the world of the expert? The next day, the Hokage Tower. Hiruzen, you should already know what happened yesterday, right? Of course, they are all good kids. Don't play stupid to me, Danzo said with a cold smile. The matter of Kyuubi breaking through the seal, do you want to leave it alone just like that? Haha, look at this. Sandane didn't get angry when he heard this. He smoked from his pipe, and pushed a document over. Danzo snorted coldly, took the document, and stared at the content. This document actually states that it was a crisis caused by his indulgence of Kumogakure spies. Seeing this, he finally remembered that because of the material, he planned to catch a few spies along the way, so he didn't pay much attention to this group of people. Furthermore, he didn't think that a group of genin could perform any confidential missions. How could he have imagined that the group of Kumogakure spies would win the grand prize just by catching a girl? Cough cough. Danzo tried to stay calm and push back the document. Let's put this aside for now and discuss the next issue. On the side, Mitokado Homura and Utatane Kaharu both shook their heads secretly. This Danzo really can never be Hiruzen. Sandane smiled indifferently. Next, let's discuss the rewards for Namikaze Minato and Shimizu Soseki. Wait a minute, Danzo, who just stopped, immediately interrupted again. I think it is necessary to bring Namikaze Minato and Shimizu Soseki back to the root, and I will personally train them. Danzo, do you know what you were talking about? Sandane's gentle face suddenly turned cold. You are too weak, Hiruzen. Danzo tried to argue. Two of them, one can make the Jinchuriki berserk and the other can make the Jinchuriki calm. This kind of bond can completely become our best tool to control the Kyuubi. Mito-sama said that in order not to be eroded by the Kyuubi's hatred, the Jinchuriki must first fill their heart with love. Sandane said with nostalgic smile, Kushina has now filled the emptiness in her heart. I will not let you push her into the abyss. Idiot, Shinobi was originally a tool. As for Jinchuriki, they are nothing more than just a container. Danzo said stubbornly, in short, I must. Boom. The door was violently pushed open, and debris splashed. The Anbu, who was hiding in the surroundings, jumped out instantly, but after who was coming, they consciously retreated. They have confirmed with their eyes that these people are not someone who they can afford to offend. Seeing the two people approaching him menacingly, Danzo's eyes darkened. Jiraiya, Tsunade, what do you want? But before he could finish speaking, Tsunade raised her fist and slammed it down. Boom. A huge hole was formed at the location where Danzo was located, and even the entire Hokage Tower trembled. In the next moment, Danzo walked back from the dark corner, and his expression was not only gloomy, but his hair stood up in rage. You two bastards, are you trying to betray the village? Tsunade's expression is cold, as she said domineeringly, I'm here to say one thing today. If you dare to touch my disciple, don't blame me for doing something unforgivable to you. Jiraiya smiled and said, my disciple is the same. Danzo's expression became even more gloomy after hearing this. For Konoha, a little sacrifice is worth it. Boom. Another clone was directly destroyed by Tsunade. I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. Tsunade put one hand on the table and said, anyway, I don't care it's your root doing or not, but as long as my disciples are in danger in the village, I'll decide that it is your root doing, and I'll kill one person if you even get attacked once. This time, even the two elders who watched the show stood up and said, Tsunade, do you know what you were talking about? You should know that the shinobi of the root is also your companion in Konoha. Jiraiya was also secretly stunned when he heard it. Tsunade was still as irritable as ever. Companion? Tsunade mocked. Do you think those people really understand the meaning of companion? Enough. Danzo, who walked out of the dark corner again, shouted angrily, do you think I really not dare to designate you as a traitor? You can do it if you want. Tsunade waved her hand lightly. If I didn't want to wait for Shizune to graduate, I would have left Konoha with her long ago. Tsunade, don't be impulsive. Danzo, you need to calm down too. The two elders hurriedly stood up and calmed the situation. Not to mention Tsunade's symbolic identity, just her strategic level of medical skills made them not dare to mess around. However, Tsunade did not care about it. I am not here to discuss things with you. I am just here to tell you this fact. As for whether you want to believe it or not, that's not something I have to consider. Quote. After she finished speaking, she walked out resolutely. Jiraiya on the side was also dazed for a moment. He came resolutely today, but seems to only able to speak one sentence. Shaking his head, he followed Tsunade after leaving the sentence. I advise you not to provoke crazy women, and the same goes for angry sage. Chapter 46 Awesome as Comprehension. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. The atmosphere in the conference room is very depressing. After a long time, Danzo finally complained furiously, Sarutobi, look at the good disciple you taught. Sandaime nodded slightly and smiled kindly. Yeah, I really teach a good disciple. Hearing Sarutobi's casual answer, Danzo was so angry that his facial features became extremely strange. You. Sandaime stopped looking at him, turned around and invited. The sunshine today is very warm. Why don't we go out for activities to loosen these old bones? Midokado Homura and Utatane Kaharu at each other, nodded, and followed after Sandaime. Soon, only Danzo was left in the conference room, and he said furiously, Hiruzen, you will regret it. At the same time, Jiraiya, who followed Tsunade, asked, Tsunade, you wouldn't really leave Konoha, right? Perhaps, after all. Tsunade sighed softly. This village established by Grandpa has nothing to cherish for since a long time. Jiraiya winked and said, how can there be nothing to cherish for? Isn't there me and Sensei? Do you think I will miss someone who peek at someone else taking a bath? Tsunade glanced at him contemptuously, and then her expression became complicated and incomprehensible. As for Sensei, why did we happen to be here, don't you know? Jiraiya was silent for a moment, and then said while laughing, don't say that, isn't Sensei also doing this for Minato and your disciple? Tsunade looked cold. So, he considers this as his tool to check and balance the situation? Jiraiya opened his mouth and didn't know what to say. Forget it, I don't want to get to the bottom of these things. Perhaps, it's a blessing to not know anything. Seeing that the atmosphere suddenly became heavy, Jiraiya changed the subject and asked, by the way, when you said you were leaving Konoha with Shizune, you actually said it to Danzo on purpose, right? Tsunade's eyes were serious. If I don't say that, do you think he will stop? Don't forget that he's not the kind of person who cares about the lives of his subordinates. Jiraiya nodded and asked again, however, what will happen to your disciple after Shizune graduates? According to the normal graduation process, it will only take 3 or 4 years before Shizune graduates. 3 or 4 years is enough. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade strangely upon hearing this. You mean to tell me that a 10-year-old child has the strength to fight against Danzo? You don't understand, he is different from us. In him, I seem to see the light like Grandpa, the kind of light that can make people around him to follow him actively and are willing to fight for his ideals. Tsunade said, and the corner of her mouth rose slightly. No matter how crazy Danzo is, it's impossible for him to fight against the whole village. Hearing this, Jiraiya rubbed his chin with amazement in his eyes. For Tsunade, a violent woman, to give him such a high evaluation, Shimizu Soseki? I'm starting to be a little curious. 431, 432. In the ward, the counts are accompanied by heavy breathing sounds. Soseki, why did you get out of bed? You are a patient now, so you should have a good rest. Asuma saw Soseki doing push-ups as soon as he entered the room, so he hurried stepped forward and pulled him up. Don't worry, I am a medical nin myself. No one knows my physical condition better than me. Soseki stood up with a smile. But, what's wrong with your eyes? Soseki noticed that Asuma's eye circles seemed a little too dark. Haha, Asuma's eyes moved dodgingly, and then he said, by the way, Soseki, I'll cut the fruit for you. HMPH, he was beaten by us. That's right, how dare you take Soseki to do such a dangerous thing? Behind Asuma, Shizune and Kurenai walked in. No wonder Asuma came in so quickly alone. Was it for fear of being beaten again? Soseki laughed dumbfounded, and patted Asuma on the shoulder sympathetically. I'm sorry, I made you. However, Asuma said with extremely excited red eyes, no, they are right. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be hurt. Soseki didn't know whether to cry or laugh upon hearing this. Is there no way for me, the culprit, to apologize? After criticizing Asuma, Shizune and Kurenai quickly gathered around Soseki, and asked warmly. Soseki, is there any discomfort in your body right now? Soseki, do you want to eat now? I made some lunch for you. There seemed to be sparks flashing between Shizune and Kurenai's eyes, but when their eyes staggered, the two looked around in tacit understanding. Soseki, let me clean the room for you. Then I will clean up the bed. After watching it for a while, Asuma thought with a strange expression, although that big brother from last night was very amazing, compared to Soseki, he seems to be still far behind. Huh? Asuma, why are you still here? Yeah, don't you still have to go to the toilet? When did I say I'm going to go? Asuma first pointed at himself blankly, but when his eyes met the two pairs of murderous eyes, he instantly came to his senses, and covered his stomach with his hands. Ouch, my stomach suddenly feels uncomfortable. With that said, he hurriedly rushed outside. Ouch, who is? Asuma just rushed out of the door when he bumped into a soft body. You're so lively, completely different from the calm Sarutobi-sensei, little Asuma. Asuma looked up and exclaimed excitedly, Orochimaru-sama. Hearing him shouting like this, the people in the room were also excited and say hello. Different from the dark image of the future, the current Orochimaru is more cool and handsome. Furthermore, as the first-generation civilian genius who was excavated by Sandaime, and also the huge contribution he made in the Second Shinobi World War, Orochimaru's popularity in Konoha is quite high currently. Even in the eyes of many people, he is the future Yondaime Hokage. Orochimaru smiled softly. Aren't you going to invite me in to sit? Soseki said shyly, I'm really rude. I was just too excited for a while. Orochimaru walked in slowly, and looked at the other party secretly. Is he the one who made Tsunade's dead heart come back to life? Soseki restrained his thoughts, looked at Orochimaru with anticipation and a little nervousness and asked, Orochimaru-sama, are you here today for what happened last night? Hearing Soseki's question, Asuma also looks forward to it. Orochimaru-sama, is the village going to reward us? As the top-level second-generation young master, Asuma actually doesn't care about the reward. He just enjoys the honor and recognition coming from the reward. Orochimaru's gaze is gentle as he said, of course, you thwarted Kumogakure's conspiracy and protected your companions. Especially you, Soseki, if you hadn't stopped the girl's rampage, I wouldn't even dare to imagine what would happen now. Chapter 47 Senpei, Your Body is Not Good. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. Soseki looked happy at first, and was about to speak, but he seemed to remember something, and hurriedly said, Orochimaru-sama, in fact, it wasn't me who stopped that big sister last night. The first thing you do when receiving a reward is to think of others. No wonder Sarutobi-sensei is so optimistic about you. Orochimaru said with a smile, don't worry, I have already met Namikaze Minato before you. Soseki breathed a sigh of relief, and then murmured to himself, so that big brother name is Namikaze Minato? Orochimaru continued, originally, based on your contributions this time, it should be recorded as an S-rank mission, but for some special reasons, your contributions cannot be promoted or even recorded. Asuma, who was expecting to make a big splash in front of his classmates, withered instantly and muttered softly, why this happened? Soseki's expression remained the same without any change. Seeing this situation, Orochimaru's evaluation increased slightly. As compensation, the village has decided to reward you to get one ninjutsu or technique of your choice. Asuma asked excitedly, is it possible to choose forbidden technique too? Actually, the village does not encourage you to practice ninjutsu that is too difficult in advance, but Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly, geniuses are not included in here. That's great, Asuma cheered at first, but after thinking of some of Soseki's performance, he lost his confidence and asked, can ordinary geniuses do it? Seeing Asuma's worries, Orochimaru smiled and said, sorry, Sarutobi-sensei thinks that your role in this operation is too small, so he deliberately limits your reward to a rank or below ninjutsu. HMPH, that old fogey is really troublesome. Asuma twitched his lips. In fact, he doesn't think that it is unreasonable. After all, even he himself doesn't feel that he has made any contribution. But it's still very frustrating. One technique? Soseki pondered to himself, in my plan, 8 Gates technique and Spirit Transformation technique are ranked first. However, 8 Gates technique is just a rank after all. It's not worth it to use this opportunity to exchange it. The most important thing is that I have already figured out how to mooch for it. As for Spirit Transformation technique, the significance if I learned it now is actually not great. After all, my goal to realize the value of this ninjutsu has not appeared yet. Thinking of this, Soseki asked in a tangled tone, Orochimaru-sama, can you tell me which technique Minato-senpai chose? The one he chose is a ninjutsu developed by Nidaime Hokage-sama and is a space-time ninjutsu that is very rare in the entire shinobi world, Flying Thunder God technique. Sure enough, Soseki secretly nodded. He didn't think about exchanging Flying Thunder God technique at first, mainly because he was not sure whether he had the talent in this area. If he wasted the opportunity indiscriminately, it would only affect his progress in improving his strength. But now, since he has one additional chance to choose a ninjutsu, it naturally makes Soseki excited. The most important thing is that Minato also started from scratch, so I can completely mooch on the other party's experience and perception. Thinking of this, Soseki no longer hesitated, Orochimaru-sama, then I will choose Flying Thunder God technique too. A hint of surprise flashed in Orochimaru's snake-like pupil, are you sure? Soseki, the Flying Thunder God technique's training difficulty is one of the highest among all forbidden technique. I just think that if two people discuss about it with each other, it would be much easier to succeed than training it alone. Soseki said naturally, referring to mooching as mutual progress. Orochimaru didn't know what Soseki is thinking and only thought that Soseki wanted to help Minato. Thinking of this, Orochimaru couldn't help but sighed, no wonder Tsunade can cheer up again because of you, you're really gentle. A few days later, on the training grounds of the hospital. Soseki controlled his rhythm as he jogged slowly. At this time, a whooshing sound rang. A green whirlwind galloped past Soseki like a phantom. Thick eyebrows, stop now. I'm letting you to exercise for rehabilitation, not for suicide exercises. Two figures followed behind the green phantom and shouting while gasping for breath. However, the figure that is running like a whirlwind showed no sign of stopping. No, this won't work, my lungs are already on fire. Damn, is that little brat really a patient? Yumiko-ne, Misa-ne. Hearing this familiar voice, the two nurses who were chasing the green whirlwind finally stopped. Soseki, you came just in time, hurry up and help us stop him. That kid was originally in the hospital because of a muscle strain. Does he not want those legs anymore? Hearing the two complaining, Soseki said with a light chuckle, Yumiko-ne, Misa-ne, leave it to me. I happen to know that kid over there. He is a new student who just entered the academy this year. Is it really okay? Yumiko and Misa looked at each other, and decided to believe in Soseki's abilities. Soseki, please take care of him. We have to go back to the room for works now. After saying that, the two limped and supported each other and left. Guy, do you want to compete? Standing on the edge of the training grounds, Soseki smiled and threw the bait. Competition. A certain green whirlwind stopped in front of Soseki with his eyes shining, and then asked excitedly, Soseki-senpai, do you know me? While talking, he continued to run in place without stopping. Of course, you forcibly dragged me, the head of the psychology club, to join your youthful club. Soseki smiled helplessly, how could I forget? It's power of youth club. Guy first corrected Soseki solemnly, and then asked suspiciously, Soseki-senpai, why are you in the hospital? Could it be that you were also beaten? Also, Soseki's eyes twitched slightly and coughed. This is the injury left over from the battle with Kumogakure's spies the other night. Although the matter of Kushina's identity cannot be disclosed, the spy incident that was picked out separately can still be said. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him, who has been getting too much attention, to explain his injuries. He can't really just give Danzo everything. Sure enough, you were also beaten, but, Guy said subconsciously, and then he said enviously, catching spies. It's really amazing. The corners of Soseki's mouth twitched slightly upon hearing this. Why does this sound a little wrong? Then you. It's different for me. The students who joined my club said they wanted to beat me because they were tricked by me, but they couldn't catch up with me. Guy raised his chest with great pride. I ran 20 laps around Konoha, and no one can hit me until I get a muscle strain. So, senpai, your body is not good. Do you want to join the club to train with me? Chapter 48 How to Use a Toolman. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual pupil taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. N. In this novel, Toolman can be said to be a person who can be used beneficially. Hearing this, Soseki not only did not get angry, but nodded in approval. You were right, I am indeed too weak. If it was not for me being weak, I would not have hurt that night. In the early days, in order to be able to become Tsunade's disciple, he said that he wanted to become the greatest medical nin. While being Tsunade's disciple can be said a bonus, it also naturally restricted the legitimacy of learning other techniques. Learning genjutsu can be reasoned for the better treatment of patients, and learning chakra-enhanced strength can be said to follow the guidance of his teacher obediently. Then, how about learning 8 gates technique? Although few people wouldn't think too much about it right now, but when he stood on a high place in the future, everything he did and every decision he made would be studied repeatedly under a magnifying glass. Although this kind of thing won't have much impact, for Soseki, who pursues perfection, any flaws are very annoying. That's why I have to find a logical and self-consistent reason for myself in advance. Soseki sighed in his heart, looking at the toolman in front of him with bright eyes. Guy did not understand the vague reference behind Soseki's words, but it's not like he cared either. He just said excitedly, Soseki-senpai, let's sweat the sweat of youth together. As long as you train with me, I promise that others won't be able to hit you in the future. A strange feeling arose in Soseki's heart. As the master of cheating people, this was the first time he was being cheated. Moreover, it is for such an inexplicable reason. However, looking behind Guy, Soseki's expression became weird. You work so hard for rehabilitation exercises. Maybe it is just to leave the hospital as soon as possible, so as not to be attacked by your classmates in the hospital, right? As expected of Soseki-senpai, you're as smart as I am. Guy gave Soseki a thumbs up and the corner of his mouth formed a bright smile. By the way, senpai, what will we compete on? Soseki glanced at him sympathetically and said with a heavy tone, let's talk about the competition after you've rested. Hearing this, Guy grinned, no problem, I've had a good rest already. I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about the resting after you've been beaten. Huh? What do you mean? At this moment, cold laughter came from behind Guy. In order to prevent us from quitting the club, you post our information all over the academy. And also trick us into getting such stupid hairstyles, causing us to be laughed at. Because of you, I have lost the right to choose a spouse at the academy. Wait, even with your former appearance, it seems that you don't have the right to choose a spouse, right? I don't care, brothers, crush him. Guy knew that he was in danger, and was about to leave immediately. But the others were already prepared, and directly pressed their body onto Guy. Then, someone's crisp cry resounded through the hospital. Soseki did not go to stop it. As a medical nin, he could naturally see that those classmates of Guy didn't actually attack him, but just jokingly grabbed his face and rubbed it. Almost 20 minutes later, Guy stood in front of Soseki again with a swollen face, and said in a loud voice, Soseki-senpai, I'm ready. Looking at the swollen-headed man in front of him, Soseki felt amused and formed hand seal with his hands. Guy, who was baptized by the healing technique, let out a misleading groan, and at the next moment, he shouted with full of energy, Soseki-senpai, I'm fine. Let's start compete now. Soseki said with a smile, the content of the competition will be running. Guy was refreshed and hurriedly asked, Soseki-senpai, then should we see who can run 20 laps around Konoha first? The corner of Soseki's mouth twitched upon hearing this, and then he coughed and said, we are all patients now. We shouldn't exercise too much, so we will just who will finish running 1 lap around the training ground. Just a lap? Guy scratched his head, and was a little disappointed, but he soon cheered up and shouted loudly, Soseki-senpai, I will never lose to you. Then, let's start. 3, 2, 1, run. As soon as the words fell, Guy ran forward like his life depended on it, and even the facial features are deformed by the wind. This kind of speed is really terrifying. Soseki sighed in his heart and his eyes sharpened. It seems that I have to be more serious too. Although he didn't think about winning in the first place, it's not good to lose too badly. On the training grounds, 2 gusts of wind passed by, and the patients who walked slowly shivered with fright. The two of them ran side by side. First, Soseki is in front, then Guy overtaken him, and the positions are changing almost all the time. Do I need to exhaust myself now? Soseki was hesitating, but suddenly realized that Guy, who was beside him, had burst out with a completely different momentum from before. Dad said that as long as you work hard, geniuses can be defeated by ordinary people. It's impossible not to get rewarded for your hard work. In his eyes flashed the scene of his father and his own training very hard every day, and then the scene of his father being disdained and ridiculed by the others. Guy suddenly burst with immense power, completely surpassing Soseki with a quarter of the race remaining. Then, under Soseki's shocked gaze, he rushed past the finish line in one go. I won. Guy was so tired that he fell on the ground directly, his lungs were burning, and he almost can't say anything. Yeah, you won. Soseki smiled, and sat beside him. I really didn't expect that the first time I failed since I entered the academy was to lose to you. So, as a punishment for losing the competition, let me give you a medical examination and treatment every week in the future. Hearing this, Guy was dumbfounded, and stared at Soseki blankly. Soseki smiled slightly, and there seemed to be a kind of heartwarming power in his voice. Your training method is too extreme, so you may accumulate a lot of internal injuries in your body. These internal injuries are usually invisible, but once they fully erupt, your entire body will be destroyed. Hearing this, the moving tears in Guy's eyes have completely burst out. Although he is straightforward, he is not stupid. He could naturally see that Soseki deliberately proposed such a losing competition so that he could receive treatment with dignity. In order to preserve my feelings, Soseki-senpai did not hesitate to damage his own reputation. Don't think too much. I didn't lose to you deliberately, Guy. Perseverance is indeed admirable. Dad is really not wrong. I've already felt the heat of power of youth. Soseki-senpai, I will never let you down. Soseki smiled gently. As a medical nin, if he had a suitable subject for reference, he can absorb the experience of the other party as quickly as possible. After all, he is destined to not spend too much time on the 8 gates technique. If he wants to make continuous progress, the best way is to find a toolman to use and gain experience. It can be said that after Guy learns the 8 gates technique, he can check the data obtained from treating Guy, which will be his biggest gain on doing this. Medical ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, space-time ninjutsu, senjutsu. I finally understand how Orochimaru feels now. There are so many wonderful techniques in this world waiting for me to learn. Time is really too short. But fortunately, I have a lot of excellent toolmen. 50 Chapter 49 The Father and Son with a Different Painting Style. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Soseki is very happy to have successfully get one toolman. In the next few days, Soseki conducted several examinations and treatments on Guy's body. What an amazing physical strength. Soseki grasped Guy's arm and checked it carefully, and he couldn't help but wonder, with your strength, it should be unlikely that you will lose against an average 4th grade student. But why did I hear Shunin said that you were bullied by his former subordinates on the first day? Haha, actually, I don't know how to fight. Guy scratched his head and smiled, but his expression suddenly fell. Moreover, Dad won't let me fight with others. Soseki then asked while treating him, why? Is he worried that you will be injured by others? Guy shook his head and muttered in a low voice, no, he is just afraid of causing trouble. He is the eternal genin, so he can't beat anyone. Yeah, he can only kill. Soseki was quite amused, and then asked softly, actually, you respect him very much, right? Huh? During the last match, I heard yourself talk. That belief can make you burst with such a strong power, which shows that you really want to prove him to others. After a moment of hesitation, Guy nodded and said, although Dad is just a genin who can't beat anyone, in my heart, he will always be the strongest. That's why I want to protect the power of youth, that Dad said. Soseki retracted his hands and ended the examination. So, do you want to start today's power of youth training? Hearing this, Guy shouted passionately, of course, youth needs to start every morning. Well said, as expected of my son. At the door, a middle-aged man with a thick eyebrow like Guy loudly shouted. Dad. Son. The two suddenly embraced passionately, and were moved to tears. Looking at the father and son whose painting style changed drastically, Soseki quietly stood a little further away. If the infection is too strong, it is not good to be infected. After being moved for a while, Dewey finally noticed Soseki next to them. Guy, is this your classmate? Dad, this is Soseki-senpai. He is super powerful and he is also the most powerful genius in our academy. Guy, for you to be able to make such an excellent friend when you just entered the academy, Dad is so proud of you. With that said, the father and son hugged and cried together again. Soseki waited quietly. Although Dai's style of painting is a bit peculiar, I have to say that Guy's strong belief in the future is inseparable from his father's support and encouragement. Halfway through crying, Dewey gave Soseki a thumbs up. I am Might Dewey, thank you for taking care of Guy. Soseki said with a smile, Might Dewey-senpai, actually. Guy, did you hear that? Such an excellent student is calling me a senpai. Dad's power of youth is starting to burn. Dad, let us burn together. Seeing father and son hug and cry together again, even Soseki felt somewhat helpless. He now understands why Dai's strength has not been shown. It is mostly because no team can stand his character. Without a team, Dewey naturally couldn't take on more difficult missions, so Dewey will not have a platform to establish himself. Seeing that the father and son were finally tired from crying, Soseki hurriedly said, actually, I should thank Guy. He defeated me in running and made me deeply realize the importance of belief. After speaking, Soseki immediately shut up, because he knew that the flood was coming soon. Sure enough, at the next moment, Dewey choked with sobs and hugged Guy tightly in his arms, while shouting with emotion. Guy, you finally did it. As long as you work hard, you will definitely be rewarded. However, Guy was a little embarrassed. No, Dad, if it weren't for running, it would be impossible for me to win against Soseki-senpai. Bang. As soon as the words fell, Dewey changed from a hugging to over-shoulder throw, slamming Guy onto the ground. Guy, never deny your own efforts. Dad, but people who don't believe in themselves are not even worth their efforts. Dad, I understand. I will never deny my efforts again. After witnessing an episode of domestic violence, Soseki said at the right time, Guy really worked hard. His exercise was far beyond the limit that it even left internal injuries in his body. What, Guy, are you okay? Hearing this, Dewey fumbled around Guy's body in panic. I'm fine, Senpai has already checked and treated me. Speaking of this, Guy finally reacted and hurriedly looked towards Soseki. Senpai, check and treat my dad too. He has worked even harder than me. Another fish is hooked. Soseki restrained his thoughts and looked towards Dewey with a solemn gaze. Dewey-senpai, let me check it for you too. At this time, Guy, who was on the side, introduced. Soseki-senpai is the disciple of Tsunade-sama, and his medical skills are very amazing. What? Tsunade-sama's disciple? Dewey was shocked. For an eternal genin like him, Sanin like Tsunade is definitely a figure far beyond his reach. Seeing that Dewey was about to hug Guy again, and showed a touching picture of encouraging Guy to make a good friend, Soseki hurriedly pulled his hand over and started checking his body. Seeing Soseki fell silent and there seemed to be a slight shock between his eyebrows, Guy couldn't restrain the anxiety in his heart and asked, Senpai, how is my father's condition? It's not good. It's the accumulation of too many internal injuries. Soseki shook his head and said. Then, what should I do? Guy asked anxiously. Don't worry too much. As long as Dewey-senpai can stay here and receive treatment from me for a while, but is it just my illusion? There was a hint of doubt in Soseki's eyes. How'd I say? I feel that Dewey-senpai's body contains terrifying amount of energy that is almost as much as Tsunade-sensei. What, Senpai, you must be joking, right? Guy scratched his head. My dad is just a genin. However, Dewey nodded in admiration. As expected of Tsunade-sama's disciple, you can see my situation at a glance. Guy didn't doubt his father's words at all, and at the next moment, he shouted admiringly, Dad, you are very amazing. Dewey gave a thumbs up. T's impossible for hard work to go unrewarded. Guy, I believe you can do it too. After saying that, the two hugged each other and cried again. Soseki on the side is very calm, as he has begun to get used to it. After crying, Guy wiped the corners of his eyes and said, but Dad, since you are so strong, why are you still a genin? Because, self-rule, Dewey said in a serious voice, Dad's strength is trained to protect the most precious things. I understand, I will also work hard to protect your power of youth, Dad. Guy. Dad. After speaking, the two hugged each other and cried again. Soseki sighed helplessly upon seeing this scene again. Chapter 50 Konoha's Best Father. Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's Light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's Light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's Light and explore the story behind it. N1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. N2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel. I am not the author of the novel Naruto, Konoha's Light. I am just translating the story. You can read the original work here. https://book.kidian.com/info/1023819689. Support me at https://www.patreon.com/common translation. There are advanced chapters there. After the two finished crying, Soseki asked in confusion, Dai-senpai, where does your power come from? I am a little worried, as that power seems to be too great. Guy became a little worried when he heard it. He understood that his father was just a genin who suddenly mastered a power that was so terrifying from what Soseki said. Could it be some forbidden ritual? Dewey smiled confidently upon hearing this. This is the power that I have only mastered after 20 years of training. 8 Gates Technique. Guy tilted his head, expressing his puzzlement. 8 Gates Technique? Soseki exclaimed in surprise. 8 Gates Technique is the top-level taijutsu developed by Naidame Hokage-sama, but it's only A rank, so it shouldn't be possible. T.N. In truth, it is unknown who is the creator of 8 Gates Technique. But in here, it is said to be created by Tobirama. The 8 Gates Technique may not be possible, but the 8 Gates released formation after I opened the last gate. Dewey said, and his eyes are extremely confident and powerful. It can definitely reach a level of a forbidden technique. Guy was stunned at this moment. This is the first time he saw such a glorious father. It may have only taken a few days for Naidame Hokage-sama to develop 8 Gates Technique, but it took me 20 years to master it. However, doesn't this just mean that ordinary people can surpass geniuses by relying on hard work? Dewey yelled shouted with high fighting spirit, Guy, you can definitely do it too. Guy burst into tears in an instant, Dad, I will definitely do it. Is it a semi-finished product? Soseki was completely unaffected by the father and son, and just nodded secretly. The last gate of 8 gates technique needs to be paid by life. Nidame Hokage should be aware of this, that's why he didn't continue to develop it. It is also possible that he originally developed the technique to cooperate with impure world reincarnation, but later discovered that 8 gates technique's last gate consumes the source of life, and the dead don't have this, therefore, he turned his attention to the mutually multiplying explosive tags. As Soseki pondered, Dewey put his hands on Guy's shoulders again. This technique was obtained by Dad as a graduation gift. Guy was taken aback upon hearing this, no wonder. With the contribution that Dad got from completing the D-rank missions, even if he did it 1,000 times, he still couldn't get an A-rank technique. Because I knew that my innate talent was too bad, as it is even for me to learn B-rank ninjutsu, I chose this one. In the introduction, as long as I work hard, I will be able to learn this technique. However, the training progress of this technique is really too slow. When the other students have started to take the C-rank mission, I am still training. When the other students have become Chunin, I am still training. Dad didn't tell you because Dad is worried that after you chose this technique. Dad, I will definitely succeed in my training. Guy suddenly shouted loudly, because I have the best father like you. Dewey was stunned and burst into tears. Guy, then you must get stronger than Dad. Guy gave a thumbs up, I will definitely do it. Just when the two of them were about to hug each other and cry, Soseki quickly interrupted, Dewey-senpai, although I don't know how powerful you are just a genin, but I can recommend you to Tsunade-sensei. Hearing Soseki's words, Guy suddenly got excited, that's great. Dad, you can finally stop doing D-rank missions. However, after pondering for a moment, Dewey slowly shook his head. Dad, why are you? Guy, do you remember what Dad said when Dad found out that your ninjutsu and genjutsu's aptitudes were not good? Guy nodded heavily and said, you said that it's actually a good thing for me to not good at ninjutsu and genjutsu, because knowing my shortcomings can make my strong points shine. Everything has two sides. Although genin is not as glamorous as jonin, it also means freedom. Dewey gave a thumbs up and grinned at Guy, because if I'm a genin, even if I go to the battlefield, no one will care, in that case, I can protect my most precious thing. Hearing this, Guy burst into tears in an instant, Dad. Dewey was in turn infected by Guy, son. No wonder he was able to arrive in time during the original work. It turns out that he has been following Guy from the distance to protect him. Soseki was shocked, and immediately shook his head again, it's not just that. Actually, genin also has to be assigned with missions, and only genin like him, who no one wants, can truly do this. In this cruel world, he may be regarded as the best father. Soseki sighed in his heart, and silently retired, leaving time for the father and son. A few days later, another father's house. Since realizing that his plot is useless, Yugi Shinku didn't bother to take Soseki to train outside. At least that way, Kurenai can still be happier. With a sad sigh, Shinku asked, Soseki, how are your training? Soseki slightly shook his head and said, it still won't work. Don't worry, B-rank genjutsu was originally a dividing line, and you were setting a record to learn this level of genjutsu at the age of 6. Saying that, Shinku shook his head regretfully, it's a pity that you spent a year on laying a solid foundation last year, otherwise, this record would have been advanced by another year. In his opinion, Soseki was a little confused in the basics, and it took a whole year to consolidate what he had learned in 2 months. However, this may be the willfulness of a genius. Thinking that he had studied the basics for 2 years, and was praised by his teacher as a genius in genjutsu, Shinku only felt that his old face was a little hot. Soseki accepted the compliment with a smile, but he actually didn't care. After all, this so-called record of his will soon be broken. A genius who graduated at the age of 5 and was able to use a ranked ninjutsu, multiple shadow clones technique in his class. However, if I am not distracted by medical ninjutsu with my talent in genjutsu, I should be able to do it too. Soseki thought to himself, with a calm expression on his face, although I still don't have a clue, I already have some ideas. You need to always very assertive. When you have an idea, just do it. Shinku was very relieved about Soseki. But this time, I am also a little confused. I don't know if this is the right to do this, Soseki said hesitantly. After hearing what Soseki said, Shinku also became serious. When I was training, I realized that when my genjutsu encountered a bottleneck, I let go of my thoughts and went to study medical ninjutsu. When I looked back, I found that the bottleneck of my genjutsu had been broken unknowingly. Is there such a thing? Shinku was dazed. Although he is also a genius in the normal sense, specializing in genjutsu is already very strenuous for him, and he had no spare energy to learn other things like Soseki. Soseki nodded earnestly. The school teachers in his previous life also said that when you were tired from doing math papers, you might as well take an English test to change your mood. The combination of work and rest is very reasonable. So, I've been thinking these days, can ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu be similar to each other? 2 fields can't satisfy you anymore. Shinku opened his mouth, subconsciously thinking that he hoped Soseki would approve of his own specialization in genjutsu last year. If that really happened, wouldn't Soseki teach me now? A.N. Kakashi can use multiple shadow clones technique when he is in the academy, in episode 639 of the anime. Chapter 51. No one really thinks it is difficult to develop a ranked ninjutsu, right? Published by web novel. Naruto, Konoha's light. Mooching a 5-year-old girl, beating up a 100-year-old man, deceiving a poor disabled person, and cheating an ignorant dutiful son. However, such a vicious man is known as Konoha's light. One is the king of the world, the greatest shinobi in the history of the shinobi world. Is it the case of decline of morality, or is it the twist of human nature? Let's walk into Konoha's light and explore the story behind it. A.N.1. The plot will not change too much in the early stage, and the plot will run wild in the middle stage. A.N.2. The protagonist won't be playing the usual people taking. Disclaimer. This is just a translated version of the Chinese web novel.